Okay, we're good to go, Jeremy.
Okay. Okay, we'll call the Newberg School District Board of Directors meeting to order. First is flag salute with Director Wolford.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Review agenda additions or deletions. I did kind of have one question. I talked to Dave about. It was just about ordering stuff from the budget training first or not, but besides you, our budget committee members, do we have any time restraints at all that are here present? Only a few of us, okay. So yeah, then I guess we'll just keep it as is.
We have a couple online.
Oh, we do have a couple online
here.
Okay.
Yep.
All good.
All good, thank you. Okay, then we'll, any other, anything else? Anybody else have any concerns, questions? Okay. We'll keep it as is, and then next we'll review the consent agenda and approve that. So we got donations from Nicholas Family Charitable Fund of 500 to Dundee Elementary. Also Newberg Rotary Foundation of 1,000 to NHS FBLA Club for the State Leadership Conference. There's a resignation here. I think there's a lot of contract renewals in our minutes. Didn't last.
I just want to call out just gratitude for all of these contract renewals and congratulations. It just is so heartwarming to see so many names and people who I know have worked so hard. So congratulations to all of them. I'm so grateful to have them in our district.
Yeah, I want to build on that. I was thinking about these names. There's too many names to read out loud, but we have 37 first-year probationary teachers that are recommended. We have 10 second-year teachers recommended for a third year. We have 28 teachers that are recommended, third-year teachers that are recommended for initial 2-year contract status. So because it would take too much time to read each name, I think we can at least read numbers.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
And then of course there's the administrator contracts as well. And I just think that our administrators are such a strong team. I'm so grateful for them. So thank you and congratulations to them as well. Yeah.
Call for a motion.
I move that the Newberg Dundee Public School Board of Directors approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Any questions or any other discussion on it? Okay, and just to be clear for everybody that's online, Deb will not be here tonight and Celeste is here. Okay, so we have 6 of us. Call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Celeste is not, so 6-0. Approved. Okay, public forum, anybody?
Well, there's a series of motions.
Are we doing all of them individually?
That's if we broke them out.
Yeah, correct. The consent agenda there,
There's one big.
one big motion.
Yeah. We good now? Okay. Don't see any new faces except the presenters. Anybody in public forum? No? Okay. Then we'll move right into reports presentations. Scott, you are up first with Ewing staff and student spotlight.
Perfect. So our student spotlight, I'll start off with. We'd like to recognize one of our outstanding 4th grade students, Turner, who truly represents what it means to be a pioneer at Ewing Young. His teachers said Luke constantly comes to school with excitement for learning, a positive attitude, and a genuine engagement to eagerness to grow. He doesn't show up each day, he shows up ready. Ready to think, ready to participate, and ready to make those around him better. Recently during math class, his class happened to be smaller than usual because we've had quite a bit of illnesses going around lately. And made a comment that really stood out to his teacher and the kids. He said, wouldn't it be cool if our class was like this every day? When a few classmates joked that it would mean less work, Luke quickly clarified, no, not that. We would get so many more chances to raise our hands and get called on. It would be awesome. We could learn so much more. That simple moment purely captures who Luke is. He wants to help, he wants to learn, he just wants to continually be engaged. And he wants to just grow. Beyond academics, Luke is kind, caring, and thoughtful. He is known for giving high fives, encouraging his classmates, and being a positive influence in every setting throughout his day here at UNY. He works hard to support others, brings his energy, and students like Luke make our school stronger, and right is why we come to work every day. So thank you, Luke, for being awesome and showing us what it is to be a UNY pioneer. Staff spotlight. This one's hard. I mean, the entire staff here at UNY is amazing. I'm very fortunate and very lucky to come here every day. Probably why I was here after 3 days of hip surgery, because the staff is so great. I want to be back. I don't want to miss it. It's a family here. But we picked one. Tonight I would like to recognize an exceptional staff member who makes a tremendous impact on our school community. Is our school counselor, Ron Hampton. Ron splits his time between UNY and Maple Rush. Yet no matter where he is scheduled, he shows up fully present and deeply committed to supporting students and staff. Balancing two school communities is no small task, but Ron does it with professionalism, consistency, and heart. He is always willing to step in wherever needed, whether that means supporting a student through a difficult moment, collaborating with teachers to problem solve, partnering with families, or helping staff navigate complex situations. Ron doesn't simply meet expectations, he exceeds them. His calm demeanor, thoughtful approach, and genuine care help ensure that every student feels supported and every staff member feels back in the important work they do. At UNY, we know we can count on Ron. He works tirelessly to make sure kids are taken care of and that our school remains a place where everyone feels seen, valued, and supported. We're grateful for Ron to be here as much as he is. And like I'm a counselor when he's out or helping kids, so I call him on some support and he's always there even when he's able to help me to, hey, what's the best way of handling this particular, because he has a relationship with that kid. And so he's helping me daily on what's the best way to go about helping our students do the best. And so thank you, Ron Hampton, as well.
We'll, next week, I'll come out with certificates and kind of award them in the classes for both Luke and for Ron, just to kind of acknowledge this. And we'll send out the memo on Friday. We'll have kind of write-ups on them too. So, and Ron's an excellent counselor. I mean, all your staff is excellent too, but Ron's great. So
we're lucky to have him.
yeah.
I know how important counselors are. We're lucky to have him. I wish I had him 5 days, but we're lucky to have him.
He'd be one to clone if he can, so.
So now do I start?
Yep.
All right, so good evening, welcome to UNY Elementary. If you haven't been here, I'm Scott Henderson, the principal here. Honored to be here. This is my 3rd year at UNY and in the Newberg Dundee Public Schools. I came from Yamhill Carlton, I was a high school VP and principal over there. And I'm truly excited to have the opportunity to host all of you here and share what makes UNY such a special place. It's an incredible community where students learn and grow, where staff are deeply committed to kids and where families are genuine partners in the work we do. It's not just a school I lead, it's a place I love to call home, and it's where my own children attend. That makes the work deeply personal to me, and I'm grateful every day to be part of this pioneer community. Do I? With what? Oh, I get up.
We talked about this, guys.
I walk better than you do. There we go. One thing that we're really proud of, I built a kind of an image here, is we really focus on STEAM. At UNY, we are proud to be a STEAM-focused school where science, technology, engineering, arts, and math are intentionally woven into daily instruction at every grade level. In addition to classroom integration, students participate in dedicated STEAM class centered on hands, project-based learning. Our students engage in robotics, coding, design, and build aqueducts, engineer tower structures in kindergarten, and to participate in a variety of creative problem-solving challenges that build critical thinking and collaboration skills every day. We are especially excited. One thing that we're doing, and we made on the STEAM night, we made a flyer we've been sending out some flyers, and we just made another one today. That's going out, is we're excited to bring back and share on April 2nd, we're bringing back STEAM night, which was paused because of COVID. But as a staff, we really wanted to bring it back. This will be a community-wide event as we invite families from across Newberg. We're not just inviting local, young only families. We want to get the word out to everybody. Along with, I've already sent some emails out to our preschools in the area to get some kids from there to come out here as well to join us. The evening will feature multiple activities that we have a hot air balloon coming, Rock Creek Club from a local school, high school. Yeah, no, Carlton, I had a connection, so I used it. A portable planetarium from the Carlton Observatory is coming. Cream from the ice cream is coming. The ice cream, they're gonna show the kids how to make ice cream. And numerous hands-on activities that we're proud of. I mean, owl pellets, I mean, you name it. It's gonna be we're excited to bring it back, and we wanted to make it better than ever. So we're planning on having it be the best one yet, because we plan on doing it every year and learn and grow from it. But we're really proud of the STEAM and all the activities we do. And you hear kids, that was a third grade aqueduct that they were building as far as their Roman unit in CKLA. We had the kids go out for the fish a couple weeks ago, right before I had to go out for surgery. And their favorite activity is STEAM. They always love STEAM. Favorite period of the day is STEAM. I hear it all the time. A lot of times you hear PE, but not here. A lot of times it's really, they get pretty excited about it. Successes. At Union Young, we are seeing powerful successes both academically and through meaningful community partnerships that we've started this year that strengthen our school culture. One of the highlights this year has been the launch of our partnership with Friendsview. One thing that came to me in one of our staff meetings was one of our staff members who's been here forever said, you know, what do we do for the community? What do we do? Like at a high school, there was stuff we did all the time, but it really resonated with me. We got to get out there and start partnering with different places in the community. So I reached out to Friendsview, and they reached back to me with an outstanding, like, oh my God, we've been looking for something like this for years. Like, that'd be awesome. So I met with them 2 weeks ago. But before I met, we had all of our kiddos, our PE teacher took a day and some parent volunteers, and they all wrote Valentine's Day cards. So about 400 Valentine's Day cards for friends we guests out there, and we delivered them. And I just got the email back a couple days ago saying, oh my goodness, it made their day. So they delivered them on Valentine's Day, and they were so pumped. So we're excited about that, foster that partnership that we can continue. We're going to start slower this year and then continue to grow and hopefully get ourselves out in the community even more every year. One thing besides the Valentine's Day that we are going to start this year is we've partnered with them to do a kindergarten activity where we're going to have they have a nature trail, and then they're going to put make a scavenger hunt for the kindergartners. And then after the scavenger hunt for the kindergartners, and then we're all going to do crafts. So we're going to have a craft little thing, and we're going to start that way this year, and when the rainy season goes away, and then we're going to try to build on it next year and keep on the momentum going. So we start small, but not a one-time thing. We want to continue to build it every year, and that's what they're excited about doing, is continuing that partnership. And that's going to be this spring. These experiences are building belonging not only for our students, but for our broader community, and they truly reflect our belief that we are better together. That's our motto this year. You'll see it on shirts and things, Union Young Better Together. Academically, we are seeing substantial growth across the building. In math, we intentionally narrowed our focus to 2 primary priority domains, algebra and algebraic thinking in numbers and operations. The results have been remarkable. In algebra thinking, our school-wide average increased from 37.7% at the beginning of the year to 73.3% on track at mid-year. So it's a 35.6% point growth in the half a year so far. And that's across K through 5. So we're focusing on those, and we're seeing the gains. In numbers and operations, we grew from 35% to 64.5%, which is almost a 30% increase. And that kind of mid-year growth reflects clear instructional focus, strong PLC collaboration, our targeted small group supports, and the hard work of both staff and students. We are also seeing meaningful gains in reading. We placed a strong emphasis on supporting students to begin the year well below grade level expectations, and that focus is paying off. Through targeted interventions, intentional instructional time, and close progress monitoring, students are accelerating their growth. Most notably, 20% of our students that started below benchmark have already moved back onto grade level by mid-year. So we're really proud of that. That's growth from what we had last year. So we're proud of that, getting them back that quickly back on the grade level. We still have a lot of work to do, but we got to celebrate the little things and then keep on pushing. That level of acceleration is significant and speaks to our strength of our systems and the dedication of our team. And then our last success I wanted in, because our staff worked so hard, and it was, I know that Dave said current, but I would do a disservice to my staff if I didn't say, we don't focus on it too much, but they work hard to try to, because that's what the public sees as our state test scores. Our scores were among some of the highest in the state and rivals surrounding charter schools. In reading, 71% of our third graders and 81% of our fourth graders and 64% of our fifth graders met proficiency standards last year. And in math, 63% of third graders, 70% of fourth graders, and an impressive 80% of fifth graders were proficient. So it just shows the stuff that we're doing in the classroom, the small groups, and continuing to push kids. It's working. It's not where we want to be. I have staff members that are still upset with our scores, and we're reflecting every day to improve and make sure that we're pushing kids in a positive manner to continue to grow. I've seen a lot of positive, even in my own kids. I mean, I've seen so much growth, and it's a family that keeps the pushing. It's been amazing to see. So this is just kind of our kids working in different projects, fun run, kindergarten, just the pictures. We did the swim last week, the second grade swim. I did use some of our parent group money because they had spots, so they had extra teachers. So I paid for our third graders to come. Well, our parent group did, so we were able to do our third grade because the grant was for second, but I didn't want to have the high schoolers not having the kids. So we paid the extra money, and CPRD made a deal for us to pay them so we could bring our third graders as well. So that was a success as well. Current challenges we face at UNN Young. As we continue working to support every student at UNN Young, there are a few key challenges we are currently facing. First, we are focused on improving our attendance rate. Our goal here, we really want to push for the 95%. We've been doing that since I got here. We're close, but we've recently dropped below to 92. We want to get that back up to 95. Illnesses and other factors have contributed to this decline since it has been rampant lately. And we know that consistent attendance is directly connected to student achievement and long-term success. We are working closely with the families to reinforce the importance of daily attendance and putting systems in place to reduce the barriers and support students so we can move that percentage back up to the 95. Because we can't see that growth that we see in the success if they're not here. So we really want to strive for them to want to come to school. So we want to get that back up. Additionally, not having full-time support staff, such as a full-time counselor, full-time reading specialist, and full-time math interventionist has made it some more challenging to provide the level of academic and social emotional support our students need and desire to truly thrive. As a smaller school, we are impacted even more by having multiple shared part-time positions. While we are incredibly grateful for the professionals who serve our students, splitting time across buildings limits the flexibility. So it makes it tougher sometimes when you have one person doing 3 jobs. The flexibility is gone. The continuity and responsiveness. It becomes difficult to pivot quickly, provide constant interventions, or fully aligned supports when individuals are balancing multiple roles and locations. Our team works extremely hard to maximize the resources we do have, and we have built strong partnerships with volunteers in the community to help provide small math intervention and enrichment groups 2 to 3 days a week for students who need additional support or challenge in a small group setting. So we've worked hard on either former teachers from Newberg, or on my street, we have a teacher that taught in Hillsborough, a math teacher that we partner with, and that person comes down here and helps to try to get those small groups back that just to get those interventions that those kids truly desire. So we work hard on getting quality volunteers that know what they're doing, and we've done a good job of doing that. We're still building it to try to get more, because we always can use more help, but it's been a good success of building those relationships. However, without these full-time positions in place, it's still, there's limitations, like it's only 2 or 3, because it's a volunteer, we don't get them here every day, so we do the best we can. At the same time, we have so many meaningful and innovative opportunities happening at UAE. Our STEAM integration across grade levels, dedicated STEAM classes, and our commitment to social emotional learning. These programs are powerful and impactful for kids, but they also place real-time constraints on our schedule. Balancing strong core instruction and interventions, enrichment, STEAM, and SEL within limited staffing structures requires consistent problem solving and creativity. We remain fully committed to doing everything we can with the resources available, but additional full-time support staff with significantly strength and a little bit of extra time, because we run low on time with all the extra demands of, we got PE, we have this, and we're keeping STEAM, so with time constraints makes it tough as well. But overall, we do our best to make sure that we're being successful for all of our children. And that's what we're here.
Questions for Scott?
I don't have a question, but I love the focus of STEAM. I guess I'm turning that into a question now. Like, I know STEM and STEAM, the difference is art. So what kind of art things do the kids do
So
with
we have a
that?
kiln on site that they'll do projects with the kiln. They'll make some art projects or clay projects that go along with maybe a CKLA unit they're doing, or stuff that they'll, for holidays, a lot of kids will, like, my own son made me, every kid got one, but he made, a snowman to take home, that we fire up and the kids take home for gifts for parents and things. And they do, if you walk the hallways, you'll see a lot of different ones. I'll post them online at times, but they'll do like base structures of silhouettes of themselves and things. A lot of different projects that they do. Thank you.
I think the partnership with Friends View is incredible. I love that. I'd love to learn more about that and maybe see if we can get our elementary schools on board. I think that's just such a valuable connection for Friends View residents, but for our students as well. So.
Yeah, we were thinking of, when that was told to me at a staff meeting, I was like, you're right. So I started, reaching out and talking to people. And there's multiple, even kids said, oh, my grandpa goes to Friends View. My grandma, or we have former staff members that are at Friends View, and so I did some research, and it's like 500. They told me 500 residents. Yeah. So I was like, well, let's partner with them. So I found somebody to email, and they got back to me right away, and was like, yes, please. And then we met, like, can we start small this year, do a couple activities, and then keep it going? I think that would be the best for us just to get it going. But that's what they're looking for, is they wanted something that we continue. They're like, we have people that invite us to go to like a concert. They're like, that's not what I want. I want to like integrate 2 generations and build productive citizens.
Yeah, wonderful.
Any other comments or questions?
Thanks, Scott. We
Yeah.
appreciate you coming.
Yeah.
I know I won't make you get up again, so.
One minute have to get on.
I know. We appreciate you coming, so
Yeah.
thank you.
No, thank you for all you guys do.
Thank
I know how hard of a job it is. My uncle was a school member at once, and he told me how hard it was. So thank you for doing your job, doing that, and volunteering for that as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not trying to be rude. My family's in the car. I can't drive there. So,
No, it's fine. Totally get it. Okay, we'll move it over to Nathan for the budget training.
thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Just come back and have you do
Oh,
well.
Oh, yes.
Or you want this one?
All right. Wow.
All right, so this is gonna be the budget training. I'd like to start just by introductions. Start with myself. I'm Nate Rodell. I'm the CFO for the district. And then I'm gonna head over to Celeste and have you guys work your way around that way. So if you know your zone, budget committee members too, just your name and what zone you're in.
Let's go in zone 4.
Greg Cascala, Budget Committee, I think zone 6.
Aubrey Nichols, school board, zone 5.
Megan Rogers Zarnecki, Budget Committee, Zone 5.
So, yeah.
James Wolfer, board members on 6.
Deb Burkle, Budget Committee, Zone 1.
Andy Byerly, School Board Member, Zone 1.
Judy Croft, Budget Committee, Zone 2.
Jeremy Hayden, school board member, vice chair, and, zone 3.
Kim Mikhailov, Budget Committee, Zone 7.
Saul Allen, Zone 7.
Got it.
Dave Parker, superintendent.
And we have anybody online, if you want to introduce yourselves?
Yep, I'm Dawn Paulson, zone 4, but I believe I'm in an at-large zone for budget committee.
Thanks, Don. Glad you can make it. All right, so this is not an official budget committee meeting. This is just a training. So we're not gonna have any action or anything that we're gonna do. It's just gonna be learning about the process. And then just kind of a little bit about what's going on in the district. So first thing, we're gonna have just a little agenda change. So the superintendent remarks, we're just gonna move to the end. And so they're in the front of the packet that you have in front of you. So let's go over what you have. You have a packet that's the slides we're gonna go over. And then there's a calendar that we'll talk about at the end as well. And then there's other packets there for other presentations down the line. So we're just gonna go through these slides, and then you guys can interrupt or hold questions at the end, whatever you choose. So we're gonna start on
Page 7.
It's ahead. So as a budget committee, you guys are pretty much, you're charged with oversight, really, to make sure that we're following the rules that that we have citizens involved in the budget process.
Do you have the right slide up? I thought it was, this is pure.
Oh, the budget one. The other one. This budget committee. I sent you 2. Yeah. I could talk a little bit longer while you get that up. Yeah. And so, the idea is that is for transparency in how your government spends funds. And, the state of Oregon outlines how we do it, the process it takes. The approval process includes how much we spend on what. And then, of course, citizens having questions about the process. This is great community engagement. Nice. Thank you, Nathan. Oh. Okay. So, who makes the rules? So the Department of Revenue is the ultimate organization that sets up how the structure of our budget, but we also get guidance through the Department of Education. And we included in the packet you guys will get for the next meeting, and we'll send you an email after this one that has links to all this information. Will be a handbook that the Oregon School Boards Association puts out. It's a nice, succinct description of what the budget process is and your role as a budget committee member. So this schematic is the simplest way to look at the process that we go through. So in the first meeting, or it doesn't reflect on the screen. We appoint a budget officer, or this happens in the budget process, I'll say. In July, we have some standard things, and one of it is that we appoint a budget officer, which is myself. And then in the process, is with the budget committee convenes, we'll prepare the proposed budget, which will be at the next official meeting. And there's some notices that we have to do in the paper, and we'll put it online. Then we'll have 1 to 2 meetings where we talk about the proposed budget, any changes to the proposed budget that the budget committee might, or a board might request. And then we'll have a hearing, hopefully before June 30th.
And after that hearing, the board will adopt the budget parameters as well as set any tax rates that are required. And we'll get into that a little bit later too. So included in what you have is a draft budget calendar. You guys all should have gotten that emailed as well. Oh, by the way, you all are the budget committee, even the board and the budget committee. You all make up the budget committee. It's not just the folks that are on here as a budget committee, it's the board as well. I'm going to say that. So the calendar and this work session are considered pre-committee activities, and then our official meetings. Yeah, I sent Nathan the wrong PowerPoint version. So in your packet, let's look at these dates. We have 2 dates set for meetings 1 and 2 right now, which is April 7th and May 5th. And then the budget hearing could change, but right now it's set for May 26th, but it may be changed to June 9th. We'll talk about that one a little bit later too.
That aligns with the slide.
Oh, it does. Okay, well, good. So what will be presented at the first budget committee meeting is the budget message, which Dave will laboriously prepare and present. And then we'll have updates on our funding, which shouldn't be too big because we're in the second year of a biennium. And we'll talk about that as well in that meeting about how we're funded. We'll have, and then at the first meeting, we'll also have a proposed budget document. So it's what the administration is presenting to the budget committee as our plan for the next year. So as a budget committee member, what do you do? Well, you ask questions. Sometimes with new folks, they come in with ideas that we want to help them find answers to. And sometimes they identify things that we need to look into, or we better if we did look into. And so it's very mutually beneficial relationship. And so we have conversations around the information and the climate of what's making up our budget decisions. And then ultimately the budget committee, you want to decide if the information that we presented is satisfactory, or if you want more information, or if we need to get into something that you all agree you want more information or suggestion changes towards that we can consider. And that's what that second meeting is for, is coming back with those responses. Usually in a meeting, if you try to answer questions that you weren't prepared for, they don't have great answers. So we want to take all that information and then give you all the best answers to those requests and questions. And then that would be generally the earliest that we would approve the budget, would be in that second meeting. If everything's sufficient, or we're going with that plan, or with the changes suggested from the first meeting with that plan, then it could be approved then. Even though we have something called a permanent tax rate, the budget committee still approves that rate, even though it doesn't change and can't change. There's that rate. And then we also have a bond rate, which pays the debt service of the 2021 bond. You'll set that amount because that's an amount that we're setting. And then the county translates that into a rate based on the assessed value of the properties in our district. And then if we did have a local option rate, that would also be assessed at that time as well. And we'll get into that a little bit later too. So the document is kind of really exciting, but it's broken into what I call an account string. But they're basically a string of numbers that represents something. And in the document, there's 2 halves to every fund. There's the revenue and there's the expenditures. And each set of numbers in the revenues and expenditures represents something. And in this example, it's tiny, I know, but it's like kind of like cascades is the idea. Is that at the top, I'm gonna stand up. Actually, that feels really good. This is an example of the general fund revenues, and you can see it goes the fund, and this is actually objects, because revenues are much simpler than expenditures. And it just has a simple description of what that is. And these are
in the end of the document, this would be proposed, approved, adopted. So for each process of the budget committees and the board's action, there's a different column. And then also there will be columns for prior year actuals. So a budget sets up our plan. It's a plan. And it doesn't always come out according to plan, but it's up to us administrators to manage that plan. So if something goes out of sorts, we're paying attention and we notice that something's off, and we make adjustments based on those changes. So the budget is saying, this is what we think we're going to do with it. And that's what we work within. And if things change, then we either come back to the board or make changes within our appropriations as necessary. And on the expenditure side, it's similar. It'll be a fund level. And then it uses something different called objects, but in this case, this is showing payroll costs are 200s, and the function like middle school. So it breaks it down, and I'll get into the details here too. We'll start on the revenue side. So I'm going to go through each. You're going to ask something, Celeste?
No, sorry, I was just thinking
Okay.
with my hands.
Oh, good. Okay, good. So we'll go through each section of the account string of revenues and expenditures. So on the revenues, we really use mostly two areas in the budget. The fund, which is the first position. We don't use the function as much on the document. The object or the source of that revenue. And then we won't use center area or sub area because it's not required, but that may be hidden in our system that we're not just putting in the budget. We generally use every field to somehow, I always think of it like Hansel and Gretel, like you're leaving breadcrumbs for yourself, because we have, if I was to break out each account code, we have over 24,000 lines of account codes because of all the variations that we have. And so we need to use this system as best we can to inform what that expense is, or revenue in this case. So in the revenues, we're going to have mostly a fund and an object. Go back up to this so you can see a fund and an object. So that's what those are. Oops, wrong way. And objects in both sides, there's a reason behind them. They're not just random numbers. So in the revenues, anything that starts with a 1,000 level, those all come local. Those are all local sources. So that's gonna be your cash, any taxes, interest, some things that come from our area for the most part. 2,000s are considered intermediate sources. So that's going to come from like the county school fund or the ESD. So not so much in our district, but not statewide. The next level up is 3,000s. So that's our state school fund or any state grants, money that comes from Oregon generally. 4,000 is federal sources. So that's going to be like our title grants, our food service program revenue, if it comes from the feds, those will show up there. And then 5,000 is kind of like the catch-all for the other things. So it's going to be, if we're transferring between funds, those will happen in the 5,000s. That's also where we designate what the fund balance was from the end of the prior year. So our ending and our beginning fund balances show up in that 5,000 level. And that's how all of our revenues are categorized. Expenditures, this is where it gets a little more detailed. Jeremy's like, yeah, no. So again, same structure, fund, function, object, center, area, sub area. And I put words in here because sometimes we need words. Fund is the source, that's where it's coming from. Function is its intended use. Object is the activity. Is it a salary? Is it a benefit? Is it a service that we're paying for? Is it a supply? Is it a fee? That'll all show up in detail there. Center is what we use internally, so that'll decide whether, or we would say, was that administration cost? Is it 134 Ewing Young costs? Is it transportation 709? So that's what the center is. Area is also called area of responsibility. So this can be a subject, so math, language arts. This can be in special ed, this could be our maintenance of effort, where we tag expenses that have to be spent for special ed kids. That happens there. And then the sub area is like we're getting down to the nitty gritty. So if we want to put a sub area on something to flag it special, whatever it might be, that'll happen here. And there's no prescribed way that we use that. from the PBAM or the manual from the state. We used 3 numerical positions there. In another district I worked in, we had 6 positions alphanumeric. So that one was like crazy. So that was a lot. It's a lot of there. So we're not going to go there at all. So starting with funds, again, there's a reason for the numbers. So 100s are our general funds. That's our general operating fund. That's the one that does most of the business in the district, that general fund. So that's the one that's really important. Well, they're all really important, but that one will sink or swim us for sure. 200 is our special revenue fund. That's our title grants or other grants that come in. We use the 200s for that. 300 is debt service, which can only be used for principal and interest payments. So that's what happens there. 400 is capital outlay funds. Those are special funds that are for our buildings, or for things that can be tagged as capital or using the capital revenue stream. And then 600 is internal funds. We don't have a whole lot of those, but those are places where we can set up, say if we decided we were going to do a tech fund where if you buy your computer through tech and you're actually paying a little surplus on that computer, and then that we are servicing that back to that tech fund so that they have some more allocation to spend on there, but we don't do that here. Function. That's the second position. And the same idea is that we have things that line into those 1,000 levels. 1,000 is instructions, is dealing with instructing students. 2,000 is support services. So this is going to be our busing. This is going to be our custodians, our maintenance. Most of the folks at the district office, we're not in front of the kids. So we fall in the 2,000 levels. Community services is largely food service, but we have had the Welcome Center have some expenditures there too, or some activities in 3,000s. 4,000s ties into the 400 fund, but that's facilities acquisition and construction. Those are funds that are for buildings. 5,000 debt service and transfers on that function. So that's what it says. 6,000 is where we put operating contingency. So if we need to lock some budget up, but still have it available, we're going to put it in the 6,000. And 7,000 is unappropriated, which doesn't mean we're not using it, but it means we are locking that budget down. So it is budget that's there, but it's outside of our use. So that would be unappropriated fund balance would be something that's identified but not accessible in the budget itself. Over to object.
Example of what would be a 7,000?
So an unappropriated fund balance would be a 7,000. So like if I had a budget of $1 million, I had $1 million revenues and $1 million in expenditures, but I actually had a fund balance of $250,000 that I don't want to realize in that budget. I'm going to take, so my real revenues are going to be $1,250,000, but I don't want to have the expenditure level of that. So I'm going to take that 250, I'm going to unappropriate it. And so I'm signifying that it's there, but I'm not able to spend it.
That would be ending fund balance?
Ending fund balance is like a way that we talk about where that fund balance ended after actual revenues and expenditures.
Okay.
So this is just on the budget
So
side.
you could spend that in fund balance with.
We could decide to, yeah, if it's
Think of it
appropriate.
as like a savings.
Yeah.
So you have money left over from last year and we don't want to use that. But we want a balanced budget. So we're gonna purposely put it away. Don't touch it. So you have a little cushion in case like something happens.
Is it the like 7%, ideally 4%?
Well, as part of that policy, I believe there's an unappropriated amount and then there's another amount in the policy. So we haven't used that policy in the last 2 years, but it's broken out that way in your policy.
Another example that we had on the 2011 bond was we had something called a sinking fund. So we had some special funds that had a balloon payment at the end. And in the debt service fund, we identified that sinking fund amount as unappropriated at the time. So, but that bond was paid off, has been paid off. Objects. So this is the busyness. This is the busy stuff. So anything with 100, it means we're paying somebody's salary. One thing I wanted to point out on that was that if we contract someone to do something for us, say we had a special ed person that we couldn't get hired, and so we hired an agency person, we don't pay them from salaries, we're gonna pay them from purchase services here. So salaries are for employees of the district. So we're gonna pay, for salaries, we're gonna pay benefits, which is the next level, 200. So benefits, is like our payroll taxes, insurance, anything that's a benefit to being an employee. I guess taxes may not seem like a benefit, but it goes on for, we pay an employee portion of that as well. So 200s are benefits, 300s are purchase services. That's everything from a sped assistant that we're contracting for. That could be a training that we brought someone in to do some professional development. It could be a plumber. That also is going to be where our transportation costs for the contractor are going to show up as well. 400 supplies and materials, pens, pencil, paper, pipes, flux, uniforms, all that fun stuff. Books is a 400 object, falls into that. Capital outlay, if we spend a large amount of money on putting something into a building, that would be a capital expense. And then that also gets flagged for us to recognize that as an asset or increase in our assets in our district as well. Dues and fees is what it is. 700 is the object when we actually initiate a transfer expense. That's going to be in the 700s there. And then 800s is reserves. And we would probably tie that in with the 7,000s if we had something set up as reserves. So those are our objects. Center, that's where are we doing it? So it's going to be a school or a building number, a department, a program or a federal program is those numbers are going to do. Those are less prescripted in the PBAM or the budgeting manual. For us, generally the hundreds are our elementary and middle schools. 600s are the high school, and 700s is a general. 700s are our admin cost centers. So we have some structure there, but again, it's not as defined. Yes.
Where do utilities and PNC insurance fall?
So utilities are going to be under purchase services as well. 325 is like our electricity. And what was the other one?
Property casualty.
Oh, property casualty. Yeah, those are, remember those 300s too? No, those are 700, I think.
Yeah, yeah, because we paid that.
Yeah, so there's some other categories in the 700s for that. And also I've actually learned that insurance and judgments are also in 600, 600 years. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. We're done with
Didn't
that.
know that one before. Okay, and then area, again, area of responsibility, subjects, maintenance of effort, any other identifiers that ODE says that we need to tag an expense on as an area. That's what happens there. And then sub area, I did this last time. I thought it still fit. It's the Wild Wild West over there. So we got lots of ways to use sub area. Some of it intentional, some of it just us tagging an expense so that we can find it when we pull a report on it. And then there's just a note on this. This has caused a lot of hubbub this year in the business manager world, but the governor set up a work committee to identify changes to our chart of accounts. So right now we operate under something called the Program Budgeting and Accounting Manual. And it is this structure that we're talking about here. And the task force identified certain needs that they felt that our chart of accounts needed statewide. But they didn't go through, in my opinion, a great process of identifying how those changes would be put out. And so we got basically a notification in October that said this is the manual and it needs to be in place by July of 2026. And what it does is we have six areas here. It makes it 11 areas, and then each area has a different need. And so there's a conversion that we would have, but all those other areas, we would have to basically touch every line. I remember I said there's like 24,000 lines. And so we'd have to convert all our existing 24,000 codes into the 11 areas. And most, the other thing is the objects are all different. So some supplies and materials are in 700 levels, some are in 200 levels. And so this is a language, and it gave me a little bit of stress to look at that. And, but we have a great association, and through COSA, OASBO, and other ones that are advocating for this, like, hello, this is gonna cost a lot of money. This is gonna take a lot of work of man hours, not only in the system, and then training. Like, I'm gonna have to learn everything all over again if that had happened. And,
So it's gonna happen. The issue here is really around when it's part of the governor's accountability, which we're all about. I mean, I don't mind the accountability. We want to know how our kids are doing, how we're spending our money. I think that the issue that Nate's pointing out is what's the timeline here? Because it's a major complete restructure of our accounting. So that's just some,
yeah, I'm sorry, was I carrying on?
fun stuff out in front of us.
So right now, it's pushed out to July of 2027, but there's still advocacy going on to identify funding in other ways to.
Is the current accounting software capable of accommodating that amount of data?
We think so. So at the last, at the last user meeting, so ODE has gone out and contacted the software vendors that are in the state. And what we use is called Tyler is the company that does it. And they also have one called Munis, which cities use. They're a big company. They just finished something similar in Arizona. And it was a 2-year process, and there was a cost to it. But I need to find a contact out there to see how they survived it. But
There are many other states. Texas uses more numbers. And again, it's the ability to kind of track the money to know what kind of performance we have. That's the idea behind it. And it's a good idea. I mean, we want that information. I think it's now just how it rolls out.
yeah, so. So just real quick on, this is a really tiny slide, but this is just an example of our state school fund. We're gonna be looking at year 2 of the biennium. And so just at the top, I got really tiny in there too.
Mhm.
It is, okay. Well, just big globs here. 2 years in a biennium for total funding. Right now, this does not look like it's gonna be changed, even though we were hearing that there might be some issues with revenue. This time it looks like we're gonna be pretty stable in the second year, which is great. We've got a lot of things ahead of us. And what we do in our office is we manage the local revenue piece of this for the most part. The state funds school districts on called an equalization formula. And so it considers local revenue, which is like our property tax. Common school fund actually comes from the state. And then based on that is a deduct from the money that they send us for per pupil spending level. So they say you're supposed to get about $11,300 a student, and that comes out to a big number like 53 million. And then they subtract out our local revenues, and then they pay us in the monthly payments for that difference, basically. And there's other things that go into it, but that's the state portion of our budget. And it's a big deal.
The monthly payments from the state, how often are they recalculated based on enrollment changes?
About twice a year for the most part. We'll have a fall adjustment, and then we just had one this last Friday, actually, which this is the future of. And then we'll get an estimate for next year, the first estimate in March from them, which will feed our budget, our proposed budget. So, and it's the hard part of this is sometimes you can't anticipate the changes. For example, if a bunch of districts choose to underreport their local revenue, their property taxes, or overreport, it can cause big shifts that we don't anticipate. But in the case of the one that we got last Friday, it was a positive for us. So that was always like positive. Okay, so let's see, it's not the last. I'm gonna hang it here. So in your packet is a draft budget calendar, and I'm gonna shift it over to Dave. But we may have some, I'm gonna propose some changes in our first budget committee meeting to offer an alternate meeting date that might be able to be virtual. We'll talk about it at that time, if in the consideration of the local option. So, with that, if I'm ready to go on that, or-
Yeah.
okay.
Let me go back. Oh,
Might have to
you wanna hook me up?
resend it.
Start me over. We're going the wrong way. Yeah, right.
No, this one's missing, I think, your slides.
Oh, is that what?
Yeah, so I'm gonna shift that to.
You've got it in your slideshow.
Yeah.
We'll have him hook that up. I wanted to spend a little time because of this budget training without talking about some of the things that are going on right now. It felt like I was not letting you see the whole picture. The board's been through this, our conversations about this, but wanted to spend a little time with the budget committee, just so you kind of know, and you can ask questions about things going on. The basic gist that we have is we have kind of an enrollment gap. Our graduating classes right now are about 330 students, and our incoming kindergartners classes are somewhere around 250 to 280 students. So each year going forward, we're gonna see a drop for the next 4 or 5 years in enrollment. Now, the other thing, I didn't really put it in this slide, but I mean, we can talk about it, which is we also saw with all of the chaos that went on here, we saw a very large drop in enrollment too. We're not necessarily, I mean, the enrollment drops that we see going forward are more about the kindergarten and the graduating classes. We've had pretty steady kindergarten classes the last 4 or 5 years. So actually, I think the enrollment decline is going to happen in the middle school and high schools. I think we're going to stay fairly steady at the elementary, but certainly something that we're looking at. But that's what's driving part of this issue. The next thing that I want to talk a little bit about is the other thing that's kind of creating the problem for us. In schools, if you have fewer kids, you need fewer teachers. Normally, we would just take the number of kids we have, we divide it by our average class size, and then we find out how many teachers we need. In our district, one of the issues that's fueling this problem is that we have 6 elementaries, and 4 of them now have 2 or fewer teachers per grade level. And what this does is it creates a specific problem for us, which is if I have, like one of our grade levels had 27 students in the spring, we allocated 1 teacher, which is the actual average class size at that time was 23. 27 students, 1 teacher. It's a little high, but it's still not in a terrible spot. Then you have 4 students move in over the summer, and now I've got 31 students. So our choice as a district is to now go to 31 students in the class, which is not a great learning experience, or I go to 15 and 16. As I add a teacher, that teacher wasn't budgeted, and so now that's burning ending fund balance. So my choice here is 31 or 15, 16. And that's one of the big problems that we have. And now I have 4 schools that kind of have that problem. Before, when I was here, 2 schools had it. It was Dundee and it was Ewing Young. Ewing Young is a special case because having 6 classrooms, they've always managed bubbles. They've been blending. They've been working on this for a while. Now with 4 schools all in this, it's making it really hard. In the spring, we raised class size trying to save money. We're having a really hard time like raising them. Like physically, we can't unless we allow 31 or we start blending classes. So that's the particular kind of structural problem. Now, the secondary level, we can set our average class sizes and we can, it's much easier for us to deal with that because there's lots of kids per grade level. And so it's easy for us to figure out what our average class size is and then find out how many teachers we need. It's the L's that we're having this issue with. You can get me full screen there. Thank you, sir. So in the summer, we figured out pretty quickly that there's a big issue here for us. So we fired up a boundary committee in October, kind of took September to get it organized. It included administrators, teachers, parents, the city of Dundee, the city of Newberg, CPRD, lots of different people, because what we need to do is find a way to get students from our larger schools to our smaller schools. We need more kids per grade level. So we went through a boundary process. We met with folks. We had 5 meetings, 9 hours of work. And the issue became pretty clear that boundaries weren't going to actually solve our problem for us. An example of this is Dundee's boundary, which is a place I need to get more kids. Their boundary is Dayton, right there at it's right, I mean, it's super close to Edwards right now. I'd basically be taking people who could throw a rock and hit the school, and we're moving them out to Dundee. So then we began to talk about structure, which is we started looking at how do we restructure. We talked about closures. We talked about making Edwards a magnet school. None of those ideas are really excellent. And in the 3rd meeting that we had, a parent said, I don't like any of these ideas. What about a levy? What else could we do that keeps the structure of our schools the same? And the other issue that you have is that I'm here starting to talk about here's the things that we could do, and we're going to raise class size and cutting money, the amount we'll talk about in a second. I'm going to raise class sizes to 27, 28. And they're like, well, I'd rather just stay where we're at. Currently we're at 20.5, which is actually a really good number. It just with our structure, we're having problems staffing it. So that's where we started to talk about a levy. In talking about a levy, this next, we had to kind of start to figure out what our target is. Now, we're going to bring you the actual cuts that we're recommending coming up. But in October, we needed to start figuring out, like, whereabouts do we need to start aiming? And so this is what this slide is all about. To kind of keep our schools running, restore 5 furlough days, we're about $3.7 million. It's about $1.3 million to restore the 5 calendar days. Oregon has one of the shortest school calendars in the nation, and Newberg's is even 5 days shorter. So we've got to get back to a place where we're offering school constantly. The next one down was, and this 3.7 keeps us basically where we're at, which is we're struggling to build ending fund balance. Was what we need to do right now is we need to get back to 7%, $4 million of cash. So the second one here does that same basic thing. We keep our schools running, we extend the 5, we have a full school year, and then we begin building funds. It's not a tremendous amount of building of funds. That's about 4.5 million, 4.7. I mean, we're still kind of trying to figure out where that needs to be. I think that's a pretty good place for a target right now. Then the last one is basically, again, we keep running reasonable class sizes. We restore the 5 days, and then we actually raise our ending fund balance to 7%, which is the board policy. That's about $7.4 million. So that gives you kind of the range. Right now, we've been kind of working on a target right around $4.5 million is kind of what we're shooting for. When we bring you the budget, you'll see the cuts that are kind of there. So again, we think that 4.5 is kind of the target for us right now. And that's, again, we're not expanding with that. We're running our schools. And again, our current class sizes, middle school is a little high. There's work to be done there, but the high school is actually excellent. And elementary, it's a very good class size where we're at. So again, in trying to figure out where to go with this idea of a levy came up. I wanted to talk about what we've already done because of we're not starting from a position of plenty. We've already cut from the organization 76.75 FTE. That's actually like 120 people because of lots of folks are part-time from the organization. We've cut 15% of the teachers, 15% of the administration, 12% of the classified support staff. So we're already starting from a fairly lean spot in many parts of the organization. This year, we're not refilling positions where we can. There's some spots where someone has left and it's like, we're not going to refill that position. But if it's a teacher who's retiring or sick, well, we have to have somebody in front of kids. So those are happening. But we're not trying to be very strategic about what we're going to fill or not fill. We've reduced building budgets by 20%. We're still looking for any possible way to save money. It's just, but we're where we're at without additional revenue, we're gonna have to make a cut of $4.5 million. So, and that's why in 1999, after Measure 5 and Measure 47, the Oregon legislature came up with communities can choose to pass a local levy if they want to provide operating expenses for their school districts. Lake Oswego, the one everybody knows about was Sherwood 2 years ago, passed a local option levy. You've got Beaverton has had $1.25 for a long period of time. Portland Public, there's many districts have chosen to supplement what the state fund is giving. How it works, basically you choose a rate. The board has heard, and the rate that we chose was $1.20. It is that's lower than any of the other folks who have a local option, but it's still enough to get us to where we need to be able to maintain reasonable class sizes and build back this financial stability. I mean, right now, that's one of the big issues that we have is that like every single thing that comes in, we're just waiting for one mistake where all of a sudden we're stressed and having to cut. We've got to get back to a place where we have some room. In Forest Grove, while I was there, we built a 20% ending fund balance from 2019 to 2023. And the reason was for this period right now is federal funds have left and people are trying to organize. We've got to get back to that place where we have a stable ending fund balance. In the property taxes, there's a permanent rate that every school district has. And then there's a voter approved part. And these are the bonds and the local options. And so in looking, when you kind of graph out the different districts that have what they've approved for the local option, what you'll see right now, and this is 24-25, we're still getting in the newest ones, but I'll tell you that our current rate is $1.28, $1.28. And others, McMinnville went down slightly too, but pretty much this basic trend stays the same. And as we brought the levy to the community, it just feels like there's an opportunity here for us to help us maintain reasonable class sizes, keep our neighborhood schools open, and build back that financial stability that we need to get.
Clarification on that slide though.
Please.
So that is representing currently, that's only for us, is we're only representing the bonds.
Correct.
It's
the voter approved part.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I can push out. I mean, I'm happy to. I have the data now, so we can prepare a different chart that has the whole piece.
Okay, I just want to clarify that.
Yeah. No matter what happens, we're still going to have to we're still going to be losing students. We're still going to have to manage class sizes. We're still going to have to be trimming as we go along. So no matter what happens, we still have work to do, no matter what. The levy is, again, a mechanism for us to get some stability. But there's still going to be work for us to do. I think I heard pretty clearly in my first tour through the district. I spoke at every school, to every staff and every parent group. There's a lot of interest in like middle school, like what are we doing? And we need to sit down and have conversations about like what is the experience in middle school. I feel pretty good about, from what I heard from parents, the experiences in elementary school and high school, but I think there's some work for us to do around middle schools still. But what I want to express is we're not going to stand still. Like we still have lots of work to do, even with the levy. Yes.
When you say there's work to be done in the middle school, are you talking about about class size leveling?
That's certainly work that we have to do, but I was really speaking more to the experience. Like, what is the experience of middle schoolers? What I heard a lot from parents is they want to talk about that.
And then for the elementaries, it sounded like with 4 schools with 2 or fewer sections, even if enrollment continues to be stable, there's a, year over year, it might be this grade or that grade or whatever. Yeah. There's still a leveling solution to be had. Is that what you're?
Yeah, but I would say that the 20.5, I think is we've been in that for the last 2 years is basically what we've been averaging. I think it's really about kind of maintaining reasonable class sizes. I'm beginning to work on like getting reasonable class sizes at the middle school, and at the high school there may be some trimming to do.
I have one more question. And
yeah,
that is,
please.
What's the class size number that is funded by?
It doesn't really work that way. We get funded, but every district has different levels of like overhead, like facilities costs and all of those types of things. So it's not really like there isn't a class size that's you could use for every single district because of their costs are slightly different. What I would say right now, I'd be happy to be around 23-1 in the L's.
Okay.
I'd need to come down right now in the middle schools, and the high schools is a high school physics teacher. And again, in a high school, like if you're offering AP physics one time, there's going to be 38 people in that class because it's a singleton AP class. There's a lot of folks who want to get it. But their average class size over the high school is actually a very reasonable 27 to 30. As a high school teacher, 27 kids in my class, I feel really good about that. At 31, 32, things start to get a little, and 35, it's really out there. Currently, our class sizes are not, the high school we're not in a bad spot. There's certainly some high classrooms, as our student reps have talked about, but both of those were singleton advanced courses. So good questions. So we're going to have to continue to align staffing to the enrollment. There's work to be done there. I lost control on the side.
Dave, while you're on that slide,
Please.
It says regardless of the levy amount, that's really not a variable, right? It's either levy or no levy.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to confirm.
Yeah, I should. Yeah, not great. Control too. I'm just about done. So, budgeting for next year. So what we're going to bring you, the budget committee, is $4.5 million worth of cuts. And so the budget that we're going to put in front of you is going to be kind of the budget that we're going to need to operate under without a levy, because that's what we need to be prepared for. And so what we're busy doing right now is looking at what's the amount of in that $4.5 million target, how much of it's going to be K-12 general ed staffing, how much of it's going to be program, what is all the rest of those types of things. So that's what we're bringing you, is basically a budget that will work without any other things. And then we're busy. I'll talk about it. We're off and rolling on trying to. For me, my job is to provide information about the levy to folks. And over the next 10 weeks, we'll be really busy trying to do that to make sure people understand the reasoning behind what we're doing. I think just to call it out, trust. is a big part of this. And for us to build trust again, to know that we're going to do good things with this money if they choose to support us with it. And I'll talk about, there's a bunch of accountability measures that we're building into our proposals because we think it's really important that people have a chance to see what the money's being spent for, why, and how we're getting there. We've been working on kind of the plan of how this tax, how we would do this and be able to achieve that goal of some financial stability and continue to kind of get some reasonable class sizes. And I keep saying reasonable class sizes because we will have to continue to manage that as the next couple of years go on. And that's really, that last page there is really kind of what I think you're going to see coming at you, which is, I think it's going to be around $1.8 million in kind of program cuts, somewhere around $2.7 million worth of kind of K-12 staffing. The staffing, the class size piece, like if we do nothing but just raise class size, that whole 15, 16 or 31 thing, it's like 25% of the elementary class will be over 30. I can tell you, we already looked at it. It's not possible. We're going to have to do some blending, but by doing that, I can bring some class sizes down, but it means that like 43% of our classes are going to be blended. So there's some really challenging things to make this all work. So.
Does that when you're talking about blending, you're talking about like a third, fourth grade continuum sort of thing?
Yeah.
And then is there also an implication on adding staffing when you've got a continuum like that, where there's a higher,
Yeah, we'll have to add staff but we'll take that into account on the total numbers that we're done with. One of the biggest problems, because when you talk about blending, because it's hard for staff. And our staff have done it in many places. But the other thing I want people to understand is like, so what are we doing? So let's say we make that decision and we blend. What are we doing next year? Because now you've got folks who, kids in a class, let's say it's fourth, fifth, who have fourth grade standards and fifth grade standards. Well, which standards did they hit? And they go to the next grade, let's say they're blending. Then which standards are we teaching? It's going to become like, I don't think it's a long-term solution for us. Even if we have to do it, it's still going to be a really challenging choice.
I was just gonna ask if it has to be if it's possible for a 1-year solution. Because I was thinking, okay, then if you're in a blend, then you get these let's say you finish fourth grade, you're going to then, and it's gonna be a 5-6 blend. You get the 6th grade standards 1 year, the 5th grade standards 1 year, whatever, you know what I'm talking about. Then, and then they switch them and teach the other standards the next year. It seems like it has to be they have to be in that class for 2 years to get all the standards, right?
Yes, but that's really the worry here is that at some point we're going to miss, like students are going to come through and which students aren't going to get the standards that I just see it's ripe for some problems for us. Potentially, yes, that's probably how we would organize that. What they would call looping. Greg.
Looking at that level of cuts, can you explain the reasoning behind why you would choose this route as opposed to, say, restoring 2 or 3 days out of the 5 instead of the full 5? Like, why is that priority higher than this?
I think we can talk about that as a budget committee when we actually get to that place. For me, I think my job is to get our kids back in school full time. So that's why, and again, we're at this place where we've been doing, we did 8 the first year, we did 5 this year. We're kind of at a place where it's like, we've got to get kids back to school. And if that means that we have to cut deeper, that's the draft I'm going to bring you. Now, we can have this discussion to say, let's do 2 furlough days. I mean, last year, that's kind of what happened.
Yeah.
Is we started at 0 and then we ended at 5 when we just couldn't make the numbers all work. But I think that's still open to us, Craig.
Yeah, and I just wanted to be clear, I wasn't advocating for that, I just wanted to hear the thinking.
Yeah.
Behind it.
Two quick questions. One is in regard to the levy. Are we limited as to how many times you can go back out if the first one comes back and we don't get voted in? Are you limited?
No, we
And
could go out
is
again.
there a trend where you're seeing other districts that do go in consecutive years hoping for votership?
It really, it really is dependent on the community.
Mhm.
I mean, for example, Westland Wilsonville has had local option and capital bonds in succession pretty much since the beginning. Tiger Tualatin has had local option and capital bonds. Sherwood had a break there, but then they got it in the next one too. So it all depends a lot on the community's perception, and that's Dave's doing a great job of communicating and getting the message out there about the need and the conditions that are driving this. And with the, trying to translate to folks that we want to be responsible and accountable and transparent, and that we really have the best interests there. So,
Yeah, hold on one second. I just want to make sure we're addressing your question. You're saying if it doesn't pass in May, can we go back in November? Is that what you're
Or
asking?
can we go following year? Yeah.
Okay.
that's-
you
Okay.
you can put it on the ballot as much as you want. It costs money.
And
But,
there's probably a voter friction point you want to avoid too, whether like, are you coming back with this again?
Yeah.
But I also appreciate what you said about the trust thing, because the other piece that I had heard through businesses and through community was, oh, well, if closing schools is an option, let's just not vote the levy and let's close a school. So the two-part question to that is, do you have a good cadre of support organizations that help you get that message out? And then the other piece of it is, are we also educating that there is a big expense burden to closing a school? It's not just, we close the building and we're done.
Correct. What I'll tell you is, as I've been going out, here's what I'm telling people about that. Closing a building should be like our last thing, and here's why. The building coming from Forest Grove, the building of that new elementary, it opened up this fall, $58 million is what the cost was for 550. 10 years ago, it was a quarter of that. So 10, 15 years, price went up 4 times. Right now, the community owns these 6 schools. It's paying for the new Dundee, but we have those schools. We run schools like we retire them after 75, 100 years. So 40 years from now, if we need another school and we've closed a school that we already own, we don't need to do anything. We just have to keep it open. 40 years from now, you're going to pay multiple. I can't even tell you what that looks like to me right now. And that's why we do have a financial issue right now, but this is one of those, like, closing the school for me is like, should be our very last thing that we try. Because we're gonna need these schools going into the future. Newberg will grow. It's a super attractive place to live. I don't see that growth in the next 5 years, but 10 years, 20 years, I think we should be trying to, at all costs, keep these schools open. They're all valuable to us. And so that's what I'm telling folks when I'm out on the road around this. When it comes down to it, we may have to look at that though, because we do have to get back to being financially stable. And we're not growing the ending fund balance like we need to do that. So that may be something that we have to look at.
I have a question about the ripping that we potentially have to do, right? So we've got the 25 teachers, the 10 non-teaching staff. Can you talk to us about the timeline of that? Obviously, we're gonna need to identify those positions before we pass the budget, but then also if we are able to pass the levy, we go back on that. So are those employees informed? How are we planning on caring for them through this roller coaster? Where are we in that process?
Yes, in our staffing process, we will be out, on April, your first budget meeting, everything's gonna be in the book. So we'll have already talked to our employees before then about these kinds of cuts. We're already starting to talk with the union so that we can meet with folks along with representation and then talk about kind of how to help. The last time that we riffed, we did, I should say back in 2018, we worked really hard to be human and to talk with folks. Again, some of these riffs are folks who have already been riffed.
Yeah.
It's a really terrible, emotional piece. So, the other hope here is that we have retirements each year. We have folks who leave. Like, how many actual folks are we gonna have to, provide notice to? I'm not sure yet. That'll kind of emerge as we move along. But whatever we do, we'll be very human with it. Yeah.
Can you, in a sentence or two, tell me what RIF means?
Yeah, reduction in force, and basically in schools, when you reduce in force, there is state law that and contract language that specifically lays out how you do this. And it's very prescriptive as far as licensed and administrative and classified staff go. So it's a very law-based prescriptive process.
I'm pretty ignorant on how the tax rates are set. The only thing I noticed that Sherwood is actually a little smaller than Newberg population wise. And it's, wow. So help me understand why we're so low versus Sherwood.
I would say again, that I don't really want to raise anybody's taxes. I think having low taxes makes you attractive. I also think that there's an opportunity here. I don't want to, the cuts that we're looking at right now, I think will be very impactful to the education. Currently, right now, we're performing, no district in Oregon likes their overall performance. We're all moving forward. But when you compare us with everybody else in Oregon, all of our comparables, we're up at the top. And so our schools are doing good work here. And so I can just see where we're headed, and it's not going to be as good as where we're at.
I'm sorry, I don't feel like I got my question answered.
Sure.
I don't understand how the tax rate was set.
I was gonna answer it because, yeah,
Okay.
so it's not, the tax rate set is definitely at the school and administration level. What you're seeing there on the graph though, is they have both a bond and a levy.
Right.
So that's why it's $4.87. So somewhere in the middle, there could be a line cut where one side of that is like, so you can kind of show a comparison. We only have a bond, so that's why we're only $1.40.
Okay.
But all at least Beaverton, Wilsonville, and Sherwood, they have both bonds and levies. So that's why it looks like
I have a different table. I'll bring it.
Perfect.
That
Thank you.
has, that's
Yeah.
more information.
More
I think.
central.
Yeah.
That'd be
Yeah.
wonderful. Thank
So,
you.
just to wrap that piece up, because I want to make sure I understand. Voters in those communities were willing to approve and shoulder a greater tax burden to get the outcome that was presented, correct?
Correct. And there's a lot more for us to talk about, but I'm gonna keep, if we have any more, I'm happy to answer questions. And I can also, like I said, we have more budget meetings come, and this will be, I'm sure, a topic that will, yeah, Andy.
One other thing I'm interested in, this question about kind of comparables and looking at, other communities around us. Makes me wonder how many other communities or how many other districts rather are using a blend this year, next year. I know there's been some local news about districts sort of entertaining that idea. And that would be helpful to know just how much of an outlier we would be versus how common that is going to be now.
Yeah, I will say that I'm hearing like other districts are moving on levies now because of they're looking at kind of where I just sat in a superintendent's meeting and two or three of them have really significant cuts coming. So, yeah, let me see if I can put that together.
Any other questions around the budget training?
I got one more thing to add.
Okay, go ahead.
Really quick on this handed out calendar.
Yep.
In consideration of the levy, what's changed on this is you'll notice on May 19th, it says general election. That was our optional meeting before. So we're just changed that to say that's when the vote's happening. And then, on May 26th, if the local option doesn't pass, then that will be our planned budget hearing. If it does pass, if you flip over that piece of paper, then what we would do is, the idea is we would have that be just a quick get together of us again, just to determine the appropriation levels, set and reset the taxes based on that local option. And then we'll move the budget hearing to the June 9th meeting. So folks can comment on that to the board, and then the board would adopt that budget at the June 9th meeting, which allows us to submit the levy to the county for that fall's tax assessments. So that's the change on here that we'll bring to the budget committee for consideration.
Is May 19th going to be an optional date in case the two meetings haven't been enough? Is
It
that,
could be, yeah. Yeah, we can add that back on there too if you want.
it feels safe to have that as.
Yeah.
Not have to re-add that in.
Especially with the level of, we're gonna bring you a lot of changes. So that's kind of the worry about trying to get this done in two is there's a lot of change that we're gonna propose, so.
To pass the levy, it is a 50% plus one, right? And just
Yes.
in our county, it is not unheard of to still be waiting on
Yes.
results
Yeah.
by the 26th, just looking at the calendar, so.
I was just saying the same, I was saying the same thing. It's like, if we don't know by the 26th, we need to assume that it's not passing, just move forward and then come back.
Yeah, we do a supplemental.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. Okay, any other questions, comments?
If you're all.
Thank you.
Thank you, budget committee members. You are free to leave at this point.
Thanks for all your work. Appreciate it, both of you.
Before we roll into our next section, how long do you think the first part two is gonna take?
I'm thinking at least 30 minutes. So you want to take a bathroom break or anything?
Yeah, I think, that was a pretty big first chunk. I think we have a pretty big back half here, so. Let's take a 5-minute break, so 7:38, we'll be back. Okay, we're coming back from break, and next up on the agenda is the PERS presentation part 2 for Nathan.
Right. Do you guys mind if I stand?
No
You do whatever you
problem.
want.
Okay.
Very like it.
Maybe sit on the floor, crisscross, you know.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I will sit on the floor. So won't be on my knees either. All right, this is part 2 of, learning more about PERS, everything you didn't want to know about PERS. But this is, again, like, Dave brought up at the last one, like, this is important because this has some budgetary impacts that we need to be, that we're aware of, that we need you to be aware of. If the budget committee were here, I'm gonna share this presentation with them as well, just so they're aware of how PERS is really gonna impact us over the next forever. Anyway, so just a quick recap. PERS is a retirement system for public employees. It provides pensions for some folks, and then a defined contribution plan for others, which means you have a balance that you expend over a certain amount of time until that's zeroed out. Whereas a pension is you get a payment at the end of life. PERS is funded through employer contributions, which we pay on behalf of the employee, in employee contributions that they pay for the check or from their paycheck, but in Newberg's case, we pick that up. It's called pickup. Investment returns, so long-term investments of the PERS funds, and then any legislative appropriations, which in our case, Senate Bill 849 has an impact in this biennium. That's how it's funded. Again, three categories, or really 4. Tier 1, Tier 2, which is the pension system. OPSERT, or some call it Tier 3, which is the defined contribution where you put money in an account, you see that balance, then you have a payout at the end. And then also retirees fit into the tiered system as well, that they have that same rate, but they don't have the 6%. So at Newberg, we have different rates that we pay, and actually, let me orient you to this packet you have right here real quick. The one that has a chart in the front. This is gonna show the different rates over time on the first page. We'll go over a little more detail on the second page. It's really for your reading pleasure, maybe not here, but to talk about the different rates over time and how that applies to our payroll expenses as a percentage of payroll, which is how we pay that. And I gave a copy of the contribution rates for our current, I copied the wrong one. Anyways, an example of the rates that we get from our actuarial valuation. So, and the actuarial valuation is the part I wanted to start with today, because that's really what we look to for how much we pay back into PERS. And what the company is called Milliman, and they're an actuarial firm, and they look at the whole pension system and how viable it really is. And so since I've worked in the last 28 years-ish, we've had a fundedness as far down in the 60 percentile, all the way up into the 80s, depending on what period it was, right? And anything, I think is 72% or lower is basically not a well-funded pension system. And so there's a lot of triggers that happen when the PERS fund is underfunded that try to pick up the slack and increase that balance. And so anyway, so what Milliman does is they look at what the obligation is, and they look at what's coming in, what the investment returns are, and they identify the gap. And so that employer rate is really looking at what we need to fund that whole system based on the parameters that pretty much the PERS board sets. And they set those rates on a biennium basis to match the state budget as well. So we get that report, that last page, even though it's the wrong year, just an example of how we see those rates. And then in the second year of the biennium, we get something called an advisory rate, and essentially they run those numbers based on that point in time, but it doesn't do anything. It's just something they're telling us would happen if they were setting the rate at that time, but we don't actually make a change based on that. And so we wait until the next fall and then we get the one for the next few years and we update it then.
So you say it's funded to like 80%, that would be if everyone who's on PERS retired at the same time, they can only pay out 80%.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is the 27-29 advisory rates, and I showed this last time. I highlighted some things that we'll go over here too, which is we have an offset from our PERS obligation bond. We'll talk about that later, and then our actual net rate that we pay. So for every dollar, if I'm tier 2, so for every dollar I get paid, the district pays 16 cents, 16.17 cents on the dollar. If it's an officer, someone hired after 2004.
Whoa.
Is this a touchscreen?
Let's go with yes.
Wow, psychedelic, man. Anyways. Did I do that?
No.
Anyways, so you pay $12 or 12.99 cents. So go to this here again. Oh, thank you, Nathan. This front sheet here. And this shows what our rates are based on tier 1, 2, OPSERP. The 6% pickup always will be 6%. Our debt service rate. So we assign a rate to every dollar that we pay to pay the debt service on our PERS obligation bond. But also we have relief from that PERS obligation bond. So we got all this money and we invested it, and then it pays down our PERS for us. But since it's also earning investment returns, it's more, the idea is that well, actually I'll get to it later, but the idea is that it's giving us a rate credit. And then that loan 1.68% is Senate Bill 849, which is rate relief that the legislature authorized for this biennium that we have for one more year, but then it goes away. And you can just see that the net rate, how it's kind of climbed and adjusted over time. But it kind of goes up and down. And there's another table in there that I think will be telling as well. Again, it's that one there. So what are we talking about? So when we say a 1% increase, I think it's important to note that it's not a 1% of something increase, it's a percentage point increase. So when we talk about the percentage of wages that we're paying, this is for all categories of what we pay towards PERS. So look at 24-25 here, we paid $33,421,000 in salaries. We also paid $9.3 million towards PERS in some form or another, which was 27.8% of our payroll. So if our rate goes from, say, let's just looking at the sheet here, go up here. If it goes from 12.99, and this is the advisory rate at the top here, to 26, that's an increase of 13 percentage points. So this would go up to, let's go here, 13 percentage here, it's easy, so that's going to be 40%. So we would be paying 40% towards PERS costs if it went up 13 percentage points. So that's kind of, when we say it's going up 13%, it's not 13% increase, it's a 13 percentage point increase. Oops, laser.
Nate, why is this year so much lower? Is that because?
It's because we're
yeah.
only 75% for the year. So yeah, this is actuals. Good question. Oh, asterisk.
So on like the 24-25, that's another $3+ million.
Yeah.
We have to.
Yeah. And so what does a pension obligation bond? What is it? So it's a mechanism that takes advantage of a borrowing rate versus an investment rate over time. So we're getting a big lump of money, and then we're earning investment returns on that over time. The hope is for something called arbitrage. Arbitrage is something that you have to pay taxes on if you're a taxpayer, if you're not a nonprofit. We don't have to pay taxes on arbitrage or interest earnings. So we get those pretty much free and clear. And so the idea is that our return needs to be greater than our interest cost. And we do that, and then plus over time, we're reinvesting our returns each year too. It, over the 25-year period we have, it gives us that rate credit. Back up a couple. This rate relief that we have is what we get. And I'll have another table that shows the benefit here. Yeah, over a long period of time, it creates a relief to our pension payments every year. Okay, this is a big chart. I should have put that in this packet actually. But the bottom line that I wanted you to focus on is this: 26,404,000. And what that is that's the difference between our principal balance, our investment returns, and then our debt service costs, and then the net benefit to the district. So we have actually saved, and this is as of December 24, over the period of the bond, $26,404,000 out of our budget. So that's about 1.2 million a year if you were to average it out, that Newberg has seen in relief of these PERS obligations over the 23 years so far. 20 years in this one. But, so it's a good thing. It's good. Okay, and this is just a repeat in here just to show what that rate relief is. So I'm gonna skip through that. So there's some things on the horizon here that we're concerned about. Number one is the end of our pension obligation bond. It matures in 2028. The reason that's interesting is that right now the market isn't great for one of these, but it's changing towards it, which is good. Once we don't have the relief of our pension obligation bond, we go to the regular system rate, which right now is 26%. So we have 2 years, but then it gets complicated. I love whiteboards.
One quick question before we jump in here. This POB, the pension obligation bond, that is something that we specifically have put into or signed up for, not like a state or?
Correct.
So it's district level, not?
Yep.
Okay.
It's our decision.
Okay.
Yeah, totally.
Thank you.
So I just took a picture of my whiteboard because I'm like, it really says what the problem is the 2028, we have a new biennium or new rate. Our bond is going to expire. So, and the system rate's going to apply to us. We still have a remaining debt service obligation for our bond. And then Senate Bill 849 is going to be gone too, which is that 1.68 relief that we have there. So it's kind of a big, 28 is going to be a big year for us. And what makes it even more complicated, I'm going to really breeze through this, but just think of this from the 30,000 foot level. What PERS is going to do as they close out these pension obligation bonds is they want to try and smooth the calculation of how they apply rate credits. So what they're going to do is they're going to look at our balance in like October, and they're going to split it in half, and then they're going to estimate some returns on investments, and they're going to create a reserve account. And then we're going to have a regular account as well that they're going to identify our pension savings in the first year of the biennium. The problem is time in all of this. So what they're not going to take into consideration is any payments we've made since they take the sampling of what our balance was in June, July. But they need to roll on this stuff. And so illustrating it, this illustration, don't worry about the details on this. This is what the 27, 28 year looks like in our debt service in the orange, and then our PERS expenses based on what they're projecting right now. So this is a big difference. This is a monthly, it's how much we pay a month in PERS costs. But they'll be, it's crazy. That's all I gotta say. So what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to set up a mechanism to smooth this out to make sure that we're reserving enough money to make these payments, but also these payments to PERS as well. Mm-hmm. And you can just see what our obligation has been over time. Again, that was visual. Again, going to the employer system rate, it means that we're losing that rate credit that we're looking at, that we receive right now. I think that's to read a picture of the same thing again. The system rate is essentially this, different from that. So again, that 13 percentage point. And
And we have an overlap that wasn't intended. One of the unintended consequences of, the pandemic and all that influx of federal funds that we put into people was it increased our payroll. And when we increase our payroll above what was projected, it draws down our pension obligation bonds faster than we planned. And so it reduces that balance. Now we have, I think probably a year head start on reductions because of the issue that happened here. So I think that saves some of it, but we're still gonna have the same problem where we're at the end of the term, a long-term product that had assumptions, and that some of those assumptions were now short and we're at the end, so there's no room for us to make adjustments. So what's gonna happen is we're gonna have a PERS rate increase in the 27-29 biennium. We're still gonna have debt service obligation, but we're not gonna have enough balance there to give us the rate credit that it should have for us. So it's gonna actually increase in that biennium. My projection is gonna increase our first cost in that biennium because of that, our debt service. Don't know how much, but I think that's what we're gonna see. We're not the only one in that boat though. So my hope is that we have some legislative injection of funds or somehow something to mitigate the impacts. And I left this bullet because I was gonna add 2 slides. I'm like, I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna try and only do it in 2 slides. Because I struggled not diving in the weeds on this, but thankfully I had good counsel that said, don't go in the weeds too much. So if this were to happen, and I want to say that's a big if, if 1% of our 33 million approximate salaries is 330,000, if we have a 5% increase in our PERS rate, that's about 1.6 million. If we have a 10%, it's 3.3. If it's the full 13%, which I don't think it will be, that would be an additional $4.3 million in expenses on top of everything else. So this is the big piece of why PERS is a statewide problem and not just a Newberg problem. Let's see the next one. Oh, so should we get a new pension obligation bond? I think we should. So what we did is we have opted in to a review and study with other districts that are sharing the cost of this project. I've given them a budget number. I said I can't pay any more than $5,000 to be part of this. Less is better. So they haven't got back to me yet, but we're gonna get more information on the market and about how many districts are interested. And we'll have some recommendations at some point of whether or not we look into another bond. And we don't know. So one of the things that was the system anticipates a 6.9% return on investments. This last year was a good year. It actually had 9.6% return on those investments. 3% is pretty good. So I think that's going to have an impact. We've seen the benefit of a legislative, a bill that offered relief, Senate Bill 849, even though it's only 1.6%. 1.6% is a good chunk for us. So I think we're going to have some, hopefully have some legislative will to help not just districts, but other municipalities. And we're going to be riding a really, have you seen, like, when you ride a horse, it's smooth, but you ever see someone ride a donkey? It's like this, I think we're gonna be riding the donkey on figuring out how they're gonna close out this pension obligation bond. And so, again, that chart that how they called it a sawtooth in the presentation, the sawtooth chart. We're gonna have to figure out how that's gonna really impact us. So there's that. So same bat time, same bat channel. Next year, we'll be having the conversation with some more information.
I think it's all but like 6 districts in the state have pension obligation bonds. So there's a lot of districts who have this same problem. So we're not alone in looking at this. So.
Now, Nathan, you just said we'll look at this next year. Will we get information before next year about this? Are we part of this market research study or?
So yeah, we'll have more information about that. But next year, we're gonna have the rate setting for the next biennium. Okay, and so we'll have a real number to work from, and that whatever that impact ends up being. So once we get that, typically, there's no typical, between October and December of each year, we'll get a rate from them. So
I'm gonna do my best to summarize what I think the take home message is from this meeting and last meeting. And then I've got some specific questions just to help my own understanding. I think the take home message is districts are going to be shouldering a larger burden to meet the PERS expenses that are increasing in the next biennium immediately, right?
Correct.
And so you're bringing this to us now on the eve of budget committee doing its work because we're gonna need to figure out both mechanisms to smooth this out, but also eventually we're gonna have a larger obligation to this, right?
We will, we just don't know how large yet.
Right. So, okay, so a couple of things. Can you define what debt service means?
Oh, sure. So whenever we borrow money, so like the 2021 bonds or this pension obligation bond, there's two pieces, just like your home. You have a principal payment and an interest payment. And those two things combined are our debt service obligations. So in our Fund 300s, that's where we show what our principal and interest payments are. So when we take out a pension obligation bond, we're taking a loan out, $46 million for the life. And whoever we borrowed that money from needs us to pay them back. And so the debt service is our activities to pay them back.
Okay, so it's a loan.
Yes,
Okay, all right. So, and we take out that loan and we pay back that loan.
correct,
That's not a community encumbrance.
correct.
Since we're talking about bonds and levies, I just want to be really clear that this is not something that has shown up for our community other than just being a part of our budget.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to make sense of this table
Mhm.
on our handout. I'm pretty good with years. I can follow column one. Column, I just want to go through each column and make sure I know what we're looking at. So what is the percentage in the first two columns here? I understand the difference between tier 1, 2 and OPSERV, but what does that percentage represent?
It's the percentage of payroll that we pay. So if you go to page, the one with the colors on it, it breaks it down. So OPSERV and tier 1 do have two different rates that we get in our evaluation. And so me versus Becky over here, we pay an OPSERV rate for her, but you pay a tier 1, tier 2 rate for me. So there's a different rate applied for the employer to pay based on when the employee was hired.
Okay. Plus we add a 6% employee pickup. Okay, so for someone who is, let's say, tier 1, 2, that is going to add up to 20.49%. Correct. So I'm gonna just note that because I don't see 20.49 on here.
Right.
So now debt service rate.
So to pay our debt service, we apply a rate in the same fashion to payroll. So it's going to be for tier 1, it's going to be 14.49 plus 6 plus 13.16. So that's the total rate we're assessing to every dollar that we pay in salaries. Would be, except we have rate relief from our PERS obligation bond and from Senate Bill 849. So those three numbers minus those two relief numbers should come to your tier 1, tier 2 net rate.
So, okay, so the purpose of the pension obligation bond is to realize a net positive between the rate relief and the debt service.
Correct.
So what we have made in interest, which you called a fancy word.
I did.
Arbitrage.
Oh, arbitrage, yes.
That's the difference between 13.53 and 13.16.
Yes, correct.
Okay, that's really helpful. Thank you. So the purpose of that pension obligation bond, or the result of that pension obligation bond this year has netted us 0.4 something. But in the past, it was 4+%, 5%.
Yep,
Right?
correct.
Okay. And that's just subjected to market fluctuations as a whole. Right?
And our subject salaries, how fast we're drawing it out. Because if we, just like in 22, 21, 22, 23, since we pulled it out faster, the earnings become less because the principal shrinks, right? And so we're draining that account a little bit faster, so our returns come back a little bit lower.
why would a district do that? Why would they drain it faster?
It's not an intent. It's just if our salaries increase more than was projected in this 25-year term,
Oh, I see.
it changes the end, right?
Okay, so it's not something that the board voted on. It's
No.
just more like we have more staff, we have
Yeah.
more of a.
And we have years where, I mean, one of these charts, you can see years where our salaries, our wage bases go down. And that's it. I wasn't gonna dive into this, but you can also see on the second page how our subject salaries for tier one seems to be shrinking, but our officer also seems to is growing. And that's just because of folks aging out of the system. There's where our employees are changing over to be officer.
Sure. Okay, next set of questions. This is slide 16. I believe you referred to this as the sawtooth.
Yeah.
Okay, so the blue on here is the PERS expense. The orange on here, the reddish orange, is the debt service.
Correct.
So generally speaking, we will have some higher months here, but generally speaking, we're going to be in, it looks like in July of 28, we're gonna be not much higher than, I mean, maybe by 100,000 or less than we are in June of 27. So if I take out the year with the sawtooth, it looks like it's it's kind of smoothed out, but it's still generally increasing. Is that right?
Yes.
So,
and reminder, this is a monthly obligation, so that $115,000 times 12.
sure. But I'm trying to understand the impact, like the blue is going up a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And the red doesn't continue because that's when our bond, our pension obligation bond
Matures.
matures.
Yep.
Okay.
Got it. And again, this is all projections. It will change. It will be different.
Okay. Thank you. That's helpful. Last question. If somebody at home is jumping up and down, spitting mad about PERS and, stuff increasing, what would we recommend? I mean, is this like a letter to their elected representatives in Salem? What are the mechanisms here to sort of take action for communities?
So I think this is a legislative issue. Again, this isn't just happening to Newberg.
Mhm.
This is happening to 190 some odd districts are gonna feel this impact. So again, I think there is, like, as a state, we need to look at this and figure out where we're going with it. So
What's the chatter, right? I mean, we're in a short session right now and I haven't heard any bills that are really looking at PERS reform here. What's the chatter?
Well, I think it's a long session thing. I don't think they even thought to bring kind of this in the short session.
Right, that's what I mean.
There's a lot of chatter with school districts.
Well, but it's not just school districts, right? It's city, I'm trying, like, this feels like a wildfire kind of situation, right? And we're not alone in this. I mean, it's far bigger than just school districts. So people have to be talking about this.
Kind of, we're presenting it to you because we can see the, I think folks are now just kind of getting clued into school districts as they come into the budget season. We'll start talking about this. I don't know kind of where public, the rest of Oregon cities and state, but I imagine this is going to be a topic coming up here. So there's some big increases here for folks who have a side account, which is most of the school districts in Oregon.
Yeah. Thank you for walking me through my question. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion items? Okay, moving right on to the financial report. Nathan, you're up again. Guys, Dave, you can give it. Go for it.
Do you want to stand for this one?
No, I'm good. This one will be shorter, I think. So sorry, the report didn't get in the packet, but the other page is there, so you should have the report in your folder. Everybody's got it. So, this is the financials for the period ending January 31st. Nothing huge, has changed it. We've updated, revenues and expenditures, based on projected, like changes to the transportation grant. We still haven't gotten the peak grant. We just got the paperwork for that. I want to say the first week of February. We haven't been able to pull that yet, so that's not represented in here. What's not going to show in here is any sub costs over 550,000, and I put that in there because just as Scott had said that a lot of kids have been out. We probably have a lot of staff out too, and so we're going to be looking at our ESS reports just to see where we are on sub projections too. So anything above 550,000 remaining for the year is not considered in here. And I think I put energy usage over current projection. We're likely going to be under on that because it's been really mild. If it was a really cold winter, I'd be kind of worried about where we budgeted, but as mild as it's been, I think we're going to have some significant savings there. So at this time, I'm projecting that we're going to have an ending fund balance right around $1 million. And I did all zeros because it's an estimate and it will change, but I'm confident at this point that we will be $1 million or higher. But this report that you have here shows 839,000. And when we attribute the peak grant to this, you'll be over $1 million on that too. So that's essentially the financial report piece of this, or the financials. On the audit, we did get our audit into OD on time, the financials piece of it. We're still working with the auditors on some of the federal documentation that they want. I just got some of that back to me today from our food service department, where they're asking some questions about claims, which we have. They just asked late. So I don't know if they're going to make the March 10th deadline at this point to have a presentation for you guys. And then just an update on our full faith and credit refinancing on the Dundee property. We just got an appointment scheduled with Piper, change names at Piper Jaffrey, Piper Sandler, thank you, to review the banks that are looking at buying out that loan for us to extend that period for another 6 years. So I believe that was March 5th that we'll have a virtual meeting with them to look at who's interested in loaning us that money. That's all. That's what I got for you tonight.
Is that peak grant just this year? Or is it multi?
It's a 2-year. Well, we have the choice to take it all up front or do it over 2 years, and we decided to spread it out from up.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion items?
You guys don't have to hear from me for the rest of the night.
Okay, thank you, Nathan.
All my words.
Next, we're moving to policy updates. Looks like Andy, you're on deck for that, huh?
Wait, if you thought that this meeting was lacking excitement, I tell you what, I even brought props tonight, y'all. Okay.
Oh, wow, sure.
All right, so tonight we are talking about the work of the policy committee, which is not only to revise policies and propose new ones, but it is also to clean up, right? And get rid of, sorry, Saul, it's a little too cheesy for you, I can tell. So tonight, everything that is in your packet is recommended for deletion. Okay? Everything that's in your packet is recommended for deletion. The reason, again, we are kind of, our practice is to follow the OSBA, the Oregon School Board Association recommendations for policies. Whether that is to adopt a model policy or use that as a place where we kind of jump off and revise. In this case, all of these were recommended for deletion by OSBA. In addition to the policies that are listed in your packet, I'm gonna also review a couple of ARs, administrative regulations that are being deleted as well at the recommendation of OSBA. These aren't in your packet because technically ARs don't need to come before the board. But we think that it's valuable in the name of transparency to just make sure that anything connected with the policy space right now, we're doing some explaining. So I'm gonna start with a couple of ARs and I'm gonna go relatively quickly through this list. Please interrupt me at any time if you need it. If there's a question or if you want a little bit more information, I'll share the policy or the AR name, the title of it, and then just a little note about why it's being deleted. Okay, sound good? All right, napkins in, silverware up. We're about to dive in. Here we go. Couple of ARs that are not on your list. Policy BDC had an AR around executive sessions particularly with news media. Our AR really singled out the Newberg graphic, and we didn't feel like that was particularly right. There are other news media organizations also. There have been some changes in state law that superseded that AR. So that one is deleted. CCC AR was around the hiring of licensed administrators. Again, we are following the law in our hiring practices, and we also have a handbook that we've put together that would include a lot of what was in that AR. Similarly, licensed evaluation, we had an AR connected with policy CCG that we are also deleting because that's something that's in our handbook and uses our system. So those three ARs are deleted. Picking up here on the list in front of you, policy DJCA was called personal services contracts. This policy was related to policy DJC, which we approved back in June of 2025. And we approved a version that didn't match what was on the OSBA website. So we actually caught that, and that's been fixed. DJC now covers what was in DJCA in terms of personal services contracts. So that very much is still in policy language. It's just part of a policy that we approved back in June of 25. Policy GBAA is the Fair Labor Standards Act. This literally was a one-sentence policy that says we follow the law. It truly was the most, I even put an emoji in my notes that was printed out here. We follow the law. It doesn't need to have a policy that says we follow the law. Another AR, GBE AR, staff health and safety. We have a safety plan that lives outside of AR that is maintained by facilities and is aligned with OSHA. There's a lot more people with eyes on that particular safety plan. So we've deleted the AR associated with policy GBE. Policy GBEBA was called personnel HIV/AIDS and HBV. This policy is no longer needed because it is included in our infectious disease policy. Same with policy GBEBD, staff students, rumor control, HIV/AIDS and HBV. The contents of that policy are in our infectious disease policy. Policy GBLA, disclosure of information. The contents of that policy are addressed within policy GBL, and so this policy is no longer needed.
You haven't noted when GBL was last updated?
I know.
Yeah, I
No,
think
sure. You know, I didn't know if you had that note. That's right.
no, there may be several of those that you might want. I know for sure we had DJC back in June of 25. There's another one, 23. Okay. Policy GBNAA, also listed as JFCJA on cyberbullying, is addressed within policy GBNA, which we just tended to, right? So that one's recommended for deletion. Policy GCBB, voluntary deductions, that is addressed, the contents of that policy are addressed within policy DLB. So it's no longer needed as a standalone. Okay, another AR that was not that is not in your list is for policy GCDA, GDDA, and that's on criminal record checks and fingerprinting. We have a policy now that covers what was in that particular AR. And that was one we just did.
Yep.
Okay, bloodborne pathogens, GEBEBAA, and it's cross-listed as a couple of other things that I'm not gonna read. That is required by state law, and it is met here via annual trainings. Anyone who has taken your annual bloodborne pathogens training, cheers to you. Policy IGBBB, identification of talented and gifted students. This is addressed within policies IGBB and IGBBA. So it is no longer needed as a standalone. Sorry, the title was cut off. That should have been identification, talented and gifted students among underrepresented populations. Okay, policy IGBBC is programs and services, talented and gifted. This also is addressed within IGBB and IGBBA. And I believe we also recently did that policy as well. Policy IGBCB was titled At-Risk Student Program. We no longer have that specific program. And we are in recent years now using the BAR program. So students who are at risk are addressed in the BAR program. Policy IGCG on service learning. The contents of that are addressed within policy IKH. Policy IHGA, IHGA, alternative instructional programs. The contents of that are addressed within IGBHA and are no longer needed. Policy IIBD, district libraries and media centers. This was outdated. This is now something that's included within Division 22. And so we sort of sign off an assurance every year that we meet the requirements of Division 22 here, and we don't need it in a standalone policy. Policy IKFA and its associated ARs around early graduation. This is the first of many policies that are addressed within policy IKF. And we looked this one up too. This was in the last year. We've tended to IKF, or in the last couple of years. Another one that is in IKF that's no longer needed, IKFAC, Diploma with Academic Honors. IKFAE, Local Performance Assessments Work Samples. IKFAF, Modified Diploma. And IKFBA and its associated AR, High School Diplomas and Certificates. All of those 5 are recommended for deletion because they're addressed in IKF. Almost there. Policy IM is evaluation of instructional programs. This one is also outdated and included within Division 22. And Dave, I don't know if you have any more to add on this particular.
No, again, looking at this, it was last adopted in 07. Most of this looks like trying to remember.
Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
That's all right. You told me when we talked about it. I just forgot about it. Again, most of this is covered in Division 22. And I will say that every single one of these was recommended by OSBA or deletion because they're no longer, they no longer fit. Again, the self-evaluation shall be used as a basis for development of a written district improvement plan. All of those are still handled through our, Division 22, our, title programs. They have kind of federal, laws that dictate all of that.
And then the last one was another AR. This was on EFA. There's a local wellness program. We just sort of folded that into policy EFA, which we just recently adopted. So that's one that we've done this school year. So again, all of these recommended for deletion. The reason why is either updates to state laws, folded into Division 22 or other structures, or just things that are woefully out of date. So I'm happy to have you ask me any questions that I will ask our team.
Did like the use of props.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, there was something. Doesn't know if there's any questions about the deletions. I do have a question though, and since we're on policies, and it's just a general question. Is the policy committee, I know I've asked Dave this directly once, brought up to him a couple of times after that. Are you guys looking at a policy, it'd be a new policy that's for addressing rehiring of retirees?
Yeah, we actually, there's kind of two things. The policy itself is pretty general. The AR, I think, there's a conversation to be had about it.
Yeah.
So we've looked at some drafts of stuff, but again, I think it's important to kind of bring that forward for a discussion.
And that's fine. I just want to make sure, because I haven't heard about it or haven't touched base with you about it lately. And I think as we move forward into this whole boundary, redistricting, levy, whatever our future path is, I think it may come into play. And I definitely think a larger discussion is needed. I just didn't know if it has been chatted about at least. So okay.
But we need to bring it back. I mean, again, I think this is a good time. I will just lay that out. Retirees lose their seniority when they retire and they work back. So technically they start at probe 1 again, depending upon how long they've been with it. So
is that why we started Neil Russo on the list again? Okay.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
That's right. Home out. Just I saw the name. So.
But that is as we begin to look at riffing and stuff, some of that will be taken into account.
And then I'm sorry if this is segueing a little bit, but since it's kind of policy discussion, I thought Oregon state law changed where it's no longer 3-year probation if they've already been established with the school, or transferred. It's now just 2 years.
It is, but it implements.
So it went into implementation on January 1st of 2026.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And if someone is a probe 1 or probe 2 and has at least 3 years of experience in a previous Oregon school district, they move forward a probationary year. So probe 2s had to become probe 3s this year. So we had to go through and look at all of those and move those folks forward because we have to give them credit now for previous contract experience in another district.
Gotcha. Cool. Okay, thank you.
One last note before we move on, the work of the policy committee is really to kind of take a close read, but usually by the time we met, there have been a lot of folks who have touched these policies. And so, I mean, kudos to everyone. I know folks that are watching on Zoom can't necessarily see everyone in the room. Dave reads through them. Nate does for ones that impact finance. Dana and Tammy, Jillian, and Holly. There's a lot of folks who are reading through these policies. Jamie McFarland in the tech department. So these are not things that just we're being informed by folks who are in the educational realm.
And
So-
Jackie keeps us well organized and on track.
Okay. I think that's it for that. So we have one more presentation, science adoption. Ollie.
I don't have props. I have slideshow.
You're welcome to repurpose these.
Yeah.
Use
So many things right now. I just wanted to give you guys an update on this year's instructional focus with our science adoption team. This work actually began a few years prior, actually 23-24 year, but then we went through some kerfuffling, and that was paused. And at that time, we had already recognized an awesome tool to use as a lens for what are we doing in science education, K-12. And we landed on the ambitious science teaching, which is essentially a framework of how do we get all kids connected to thinking like a scientist, working like a scientist, and them proving to themselves that they can do this hard work. So the first of there's 4 main pillars: planning for engagement, eliciting student ideas, supporting changes in thinking. So as you're watching a phenomenon develop, it changes the way that you think about it. How do we get kids to engage in that? A huge move for us in our district is student discourse. And I think actually, if anybody's listening right now, I hope what you hear is, even though we're going through the landmines of budgeting and PERS and these things that are out of our hands and we're just adjusting, we're staying so focused on instruction in our classrooms and being there for every single kid that we have and getting tools in the classroom so every single kid is engaged in all of these core areas of learning. So just this plug of like, we know what our job is here, and that is to do this work. So the third pillar is supporting changes in thinking, and the fourth is pressing for evidence-based explanation. So rooted in true science thinking. It's a different discipline than math. It's a different discipline than ELA, than social studies. And we want to see that happen in our classrooms. This also reflects a shift to the NGSS standards that Oregon is a part of, and 3-dimensional teaching, which is thinking through the practices of what students do. And this is active, this is hands-on, this isn't deferring to a screen. What students know, engaging their prior content. We have a ton of alignment at the elementary level with CKLA, which is our ELA curriculum. How do we tease that content out and have kids show that they actually know some of these building blocks already? And then the cross-cutting concepts is how students think and the language that we use. There's like 9 different cross-cutting concepts. Some of them are systems. That's the concept, that's the thought. Used in our history classes, used in science. How do we bring that alive for kids that it activates what they know and something they start to see patterns through? Cross-cutting concepts are a huge area that we focused on with our science learning team. And this is, yes?
NGSS.
Did I not say it?
No.
Oh, so the NGSS is basically the standard set that is looking, and through those lenses, looking at every grade level, what are the standards that we're teaching our students? Our science teacher, do you want to add any specifics?
Next gen science standards.
Oh, sorry, I didn't say it. Yeah. Sorry, that. What this means though, is that instead of passively learning vocab and then applying it to sentence frames and then reminding yourselves what an equation is by the time you get to chemistry, it's actually looking and rooted at phenomena-driven experiences and explanations. So that is something that is hands-on. And just to give you a sample of what we talked about in our science leadership team, how do I play something? This is so techy. Ooh. That is a golf ball. Right there. It doesn't look like a golf ball. So it's taking these moments, lighting a match, when erosion in a bed of sand. You see some things here in New and Young and call out their wonderful STEAM programming of looking at an oil slick as they're going through a pollution unit. I can't remember actually what it's called, but it's using elements like this to really connect to students thinking, questioning, explaining, and then coming up with what are the big ideas of science here? What do I know about it? What am I learning? And what is challenging for me? So right now, at all of our levels, K through 12, we have pilot teams in all of our buildings. We have 24 elementary teachers participating, 5 middle school teachers participating. So there's 3 in one middle school, 2 in the other middle school, which is basically 80% of our science staff, and 5 high school teachers
4 at Newberg High and 1 at Catalyst, who are all piloting the 2 options that the whole team distilled down at each grade level and said, these are the best high quality materials that are out there for us to use. The ask is that from the beginning of February, as soon as they receive training on both of those curriculum platforms, that they had February, March, and April to find a week plus for one of the curriculums and then a week plus for the other, so they could compare apples to apples. As they're doing that, they're collecting data with forms and then also collecting student feedback of what they thought in the process of using those tools. So at the K-5 level, McGraw-Hill Inspire Science and Discovery Education, which also incorporates mystery science. Might have seen that at home for our K-1-2s. Those are the 2 options. At the 6-8 level, Style Education, it's very new curricula out of Australia. Lake Oswego just adopted it. We're like the first state in all of the United States to put them on an approved list. A super interesting approach, and STEM scopes. You'll see that these 2 are distinctly different from the options you're gonna see at elementary and at high school. And I think that that's pretty awesome. It speaks to our middle school teachers know they need active, engaging instructional materials in our middle school classrooms. The caveat is they're also dealing with some particularly difficult behaviors sometimes. We don't want to skip the hands-on, the awesome, the engaging. So it's part of that middle school development, working as a human being in a classroom and also doing the really intense hands-on labs and not deferring to just reading or watching a video on a lab that you're not participating in. Both of these tools, though, out of I think 8 or 9 options, they chose these. And I'm pretty excited to see how that goes in the classroom. And then at the high school level, McGraw-Hill and Sabas, these are big publishers. When we started doing some of our trainings, one of the high school teachers took me aside and like, hey, this is click and play in some of these cases, and this is not how we teach. We teach engaging hands-on. And so we're finding that what is high quality tools available to us, we're gonna still have a ton of work to do within our science leadership team to make sure that it meets our standards and how teachers use that to equip students at the high school level. I think that there's some great work that will come out of that science team at all levels, but particularly the high school and the middle school. So the next steps is just that they're all piloting now until the end of April. They're fitting it into their scope and sequence where they're at with their kids. And then this is now both options at all grade levels are available at the district office. If anyone from the community wants to come in and look at the 2 options and give any feedback, that would be awesome. As soon as we have it whittled down to the recommended choice, we'll also have those, like the chosen one, still available to be reviewed by the public before it comes to you guys. So as soon as that's made, we'll be sharing that out. It will be obviously after April. But that's it. It's a crash course through where we're at, what we're doing.
When was the last time we adopted science materials?
I'm scared to answer that question, Dave.
No.
2014.
Yeah.
Just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, and the same is true for social studies, which is next year. We're very intent on let's use this opportunity to keep doing what we know is good. Our teachers have been using their own teacher created curriculum and parts and pieces from past adopted materials, and they're phenomenal. So they're doing great work with that, but they are very eager to see what these new materials can provide for them in the classroom.
And these ones, sorry, are for adoption in the fall.
Yeah, so if we wouldn't purchase till July, for budget reasons.
Yeah.
And that gives us enough time to get them into our buildings. And we'll begin the year with a training for all of our teachers. You guys, elementary teachers, every year, shout them out. There's always a new curriculum for them to learn in like 2 minutes before the school year. So we are going to work on getting them a robust enough training. Again, one of the options is something they're very familiar with, and those platforms are very similar, the 2 that they're piloting. So I don't perceive a huge hurdle there, but it's just another thing to learn at the very beginning of a school year. So we're trying to ramp that process up as quickly as we can once they have a determination.
And have we allotted time for the different teacher volunteers and for you guys to compare at the different levels to make sure that we're spiraling and meeting so that our elementary is preparing
Yeah.
what the middle school wants to see and the middle school is preparing?
We had in that science leadership team meetings, we had great conversations about what do these transitions need to look like? What are the expectations? Not curriculum is just a tool.
Yeah.
Teaching is the miracle and the gift of our teachers in the classroom, how they use these tools, not only to connect with their kids, but to create those spiraling learning sessions for students to build on. And that part, communicating, it was so in one room with your fifth grade teachers and your middle school teachers sitting here, and then your middle school having a serious long conversation with some of our high school instructors was fabulous. And we kind of captured where are we seeing pitfalls right now? Where do we need to fill in those gaps? Or the expectations actually of behavior was more of what we talked about, because they want to be in labs way more at the middle school. But that is a conversation of how do we prepare our humans to be in a lab space where there's a Bunsen burner or there's something else that is going to require some serious training. And how we raise the expectations and rigor of our kids is we know they can do it. And how do we support our teachers in getting our kids there? So it's all great conversations that are developing, but along with that is also learning this tool, learning that new curriculum and how we're going to use it. So
I have a question about the high school level. You're, definitely agree. Those are two major publishers, et cetera. But you're saying that the teachers already know they need to do additional work. Was there not other curriculum like you're touting on the middle school level that what might help cross that could be on that list?
you know what, Jeremy, the limitations to us was the ODE approved list. These were the best options on that list.
Okay.
And that's the part that I just am very proud of our teachers to see that there's still so much, when you get a larger publisher like that, there's so many options within it. There's actually too many options. But the approach that's suggested by the publisher is we're already seeing that's not how we would approach this work with our kids. This still has all the tools that they need, but our teachers would interpret that a little differently than maybe what's suggested of how to lay out a learning cycle. So. Yeah.
Can you tell me just off the top of your head? I mean, is it just these two that are approved at the high school level on the OD list?
No,
How many are there?
5.
Okay.
And 2 we looked at and it makes me think of Wayne's World. They were not worthy. They're just not, it's not okay. And for nothing that they're all very similar to one another. In my opinion, publishers are eating one another right now because there's so many digital free open resources that they're very much struggling, just as companies. And so they're now starting to mirror one another. They know they have to have extensions for our tech kids. They know they have to have interventions built in for our kids who need extra support. So they're starting to play the game of business. But the 2 that we have by far were the better choices for our teachers. So we used an evaluation tool, I should have said that. Not only did that ensure alignment between the different grade levels, but it called out our non-negotiables as far as anything we would expect of a tool in the classroom, whether that was language supports, it was full alignment to Oregon, the NGSS, all of the pieces that matter in the science classroom that was already built into our tool. So if it was missing a non-negotiable, we didn't even look at it. And that helped us speed along the process.
Thank you.
Yes.
That was a great segue into my question, and that was what are our priorities? What are our criteria? How will we know which one will let them?
Yeah, well, I covered some of that it was phenomenon driven, that it was totally aligned to the NGSS, Next Gen Science Standards, that it was in alignment to Oregon standards, which essentially is built off of those, that it was fully available in Spanish, student facing, teacher facing for a dual language program. That it had interventions and extensions for our students across the whole spectrum of where we're at any grade level. That it was engaging, that it followed the framework of the ambitious science teaching that I mentioned at the very beginning. And there were areas for students to lead inquiry and ask questions. There were supports for student discourse. So the students are talking and sharing their ideas. So it's just some of the non-negotiables we had. The first page of the tool was non-negotiables. If there was a 0, then we went bye. But it was frustrating that we didn't have more awesome choices at some of our grade levels. The middle school, I'm really excited. But there's two sides to every coin. When you have something new, it's new. And you don't know how built out it is. You don't know the customer service relationship that you'll get, like with some of the bigger companies. But so far, everything's been really, really positive. So it's as much of a relationship for our teachers with a tool in the classroom as it is with us and a company that will meet the needs of our teachers in the classroom. So, yeah. I thought it was gonna be 5 minutes. I'm really off on my time, but the presentations will be guys.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Holly.
Well, I'll just add, communication will always go out now that the materials are able to be viewed. So we'll just keep you guys posted on when we.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
Okay. Action item. After our conversation last time, we've come back with this kind of recommendation. We left the transfer limits pretty much the same as last year. I did think about cutting it in half, going to 10 instead of 20. In the end, I left it. And then we're basically saying with this is that we laid out the application timeline and processing that after the 20, we'll use hardships, which are hardship by the law. Well, I should say by the OAR, the admin rules goes with the students impacted by a parent or guardian's military deployment, the student's experience in instability related to homelessness or foster care placement, students has a documented medical condition that necessitates the transfer, death of the student's parent, the student doesn't have access to safe and affordable health childcare in the resident district. And then the last is the student's involved with the documented case of severe harassment, intimidation, or bullying. And then we'll consider siblings, because again, having a family split between districts doesn't seem to make sense. And so that's kind of what we brought back to you after our 2 episodes of conversation. Feels like that's kind of getting into the range of what I'd like to recommend.
How does this, what you're recommending here differ from what we've done previously?
I think laying out the hardship part of this more definitely, I think will help me kind of hone in on, there's a lot of different reasons. Trying to be a little more strict around how they fit into those, I think is what's the change. Technically, I don't think that's still the admin rule, and it has been the admin rule. I think the application of it, though, is a little different.
Can you speak a little bit to why you're recommending we keep the 20 student release?
It really kind of came down to, I think there are a set of families who want to make some choices, and being more narrow. And I'm open to that. I will tell you, I was thinking hard about this. Forcing more folks to come in and meet with me and talk about it, that definitely went through my head. In the end, I felt like it came down to this whole fact that I think there's a number of families who will look outside of our district. And me telling them that, no, you can't. I don't know. I'm not sure that really serves our purpose. I had met with some other superintendents and this question came up, and it was interesting because a lot of soups are kind of in that same place, which is there are some families who are going to choose to go to a different district, and providing them an opportunity in one way or another, at least for some number of them, was making some sense. That's all. I'm open though. If you told me that you had feelings that you wanted to make it 10, I would be fine with that.
My initial thinking about this is it feels a little bit like we're talking out of both sides of our mouth here, right? When we're talking about putting a levy on the ballot to get additional funding, And then saying 20 students are, about 20 students can just walk out of the district every year. That doesn't feel right to me.
Let's talk about it, because if you want to amend it, I'm fine with that.
Well, I want to address one thing too. There was lots of questions last time, and I think there was a lot of clarity asked about some of the data. I don't see any data sheets with this. Did we get clarity?
I felt like I answered those questions last time with that data. Are there other questions?
I thought there were like some of the way that some bucketed, and we were gonna look at something. I don't know. And again, I don't recall it. That was 2 weeks ago. But I recall just the level of engagement around the data. I'm just trying to make sure as the leader of the board right now to make sure that we're addressing that, right?
Yeah, I think that my recollection, it was that last meeting, we had some more clarity on the data. I personally feel fine about the data from last time, and in response to Andy's comment, I hear that, and I think that is a really valid thing to bring up, Andy, that it's hard to, be in this position with the levy and yet also look at this. I have concerns about what, in the rebuilding of trust with our community and all of that, I'm wondering about what the messaging says to the community when we pull this back and if we decrease this amount. Because I think that all of these families, even, the 20 that get to, walk away, that isn't an easy decision for any of these families to make. I don't think it's a flippant decision for any of them. And I also wonder, is this top of mind for the community? Do people even know that these numbers exist? And what is the way that we manage this? And if we are to make changes to this, does that invite conversation that otherwise the system has been working fine-ish? I don't know. And I am conflicted.
Yeah, I mean, I can get your point. I think it's valid. I think that the bigger issue based on the data we got last meeting was the people outside of that 20 limit. It was the other 60 or 80 altogether. That I don't know, that's gonna go on Dave regardless, because we could set the limit at 10 and we still get those extra 10 that claim hardship, and we have to make that hard decision either way. I would agree that it's just, I don't think there are many people in our community that are just, constantly deciding I'm out of here without serious thought and having that be a big part of their family life. So I would tend to say keep it at the 20, but I think it's a valid point if that was a deciding factor for other people on the way that we're going about our finances, I guess.
I had some strong feelings last time, still do on some things, but before I get into that, Dave, can you refresh our memory of what, not the hardship, but these general numbers, just for any reason, what some of our surrounding districts are doing around that?
So I know Tiger Tualatin is basically doing this. They're doing 0, but then they have the hardship and then the sibling piece. Right. And then Sherwood is doing 0 and hardship only. I did have a conversation with other Yamhill County districts just today, and they're doing more like this. Like most of them, like if a family really wants out, they're signing that, because of like forcing a family into the district doesn't make them happy, like more likely to be at school and some of these types of things. So that's what I know. That was just a conversation among superintendents. I didn't actually look at their policy pieces, but and most of the districts have been this inter-district transfer where you run this up front in March, April, May. This started like in 2011, and it was meant to allow folks to get to districts that they want to be in, but also not create a hardship for districts. So again, I think part of this just has to do with me hanging on hardships and but allowing some folks to go. That's why I ended up recommending this.
Well, thanks for answering that. I think I still had some very strong feelings. But mine were more around hardships and what I was getting last. I don't like the idea of, splitting families up and because we want to keep the money in the district. But I do have to say, I think I agree a bit with Andy on some of this. If some of our surrounding districts are on some of the just choice when we're already having some of those large numbers, I could kind of go either way. I could see this saying like, hey, no, like you have to have a reason. And like you've mentioned, some of these aren't that hard. And what I wonder is if it was just, if you had to actually give a reason, how many people might be like, okay, maybe I don't really want it that bad. Because I know there's also other people who may not understand that these hardships exist. Like I know I was talking to a family a few months back that was telling me they were frustrated that they weren't able to get in this lottery, and that they were frustrated because their children were split up. And I mentioned, well, actually, have you tried reaching out to the superintendent because we have that as an exception, and they didn't even know that existed. And that felt a little bit more right. But I don't know. I guess I could see potentially lowering those numbers. I just wanted to make sure, and what I was really feeling strongly about last time and still do is these hardships, because I don't think that we should, when it's in the best interest of the child to go because of their life circumstances that they can't control or something's going on, I think we should be letting those go. But it doesn't completely sit right with me to choose to live in one community and decide that that school isn't good enough for you, so you're going to go to another one. Part of me is like, I get it's expensive to move to some of these other towns, but that's that community's schools. And if and maybe we do lower these numbers, say, hey, if you're choosing to, like, we are all collectively, and hopefully with this levy that hopefully will pass, knock on wood here, but what we're asking for is the community to invest in our community, and that might be some of that. Maybe we do lower the for no reason, but still go with the hardship, because ultimately we, like you were talking about, even in the RIF process, we want to be human. And if you have a really good reason, I trust you, Dave, as a superintendent to make that call within the hardships, and even maybe if it doesn't quite up in there. If you are sitting down and, like you said, having a conversation face to face, and they make their case and you believe it's in the best interest, I trust you to make that. I don't know. I think I am a little bit more with Andy on this, with people just walking out.
So if we zero these out, does that eliminate the lottery altogether?
If you say zero, yes. If you hack them, it would go 5, 2, 3. Or 0.
Do we hit this number every year?
Yes,
That was my question. You
Absolutely.
said since 2011, we've hit this.
absolutely.
Yeah.
People asking already. What we're
Yeah.
talking about.
And just to, I have like one question and I have a comment. So the question is, again, this is once a student has been released, it's a one time and they're done, and they can stay in that other district for the rest of their student life.
Yeah.
Correct. They don't have to reapply every year. It's once and done, right?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Unless another district revokes it or something.
Yeah, there is a revoke, like if the student is attending, there's some specific reasons, and they've changed a little bit,
Okay.
but that's still the basic, just
Okay,
behavior
yeah.
or attendance.
Okay.
So it's
At least for their-
additional students every year,
What?
with 80 additional releases every year.
20 officially,
Well,
The rest of
20
hardship.
within this, and then
It was like 80 when you're talking about the numbers. It was like 80, but that was also, we had the 20 that had to do with COA, and we talked about some of those numbers actually went down, but of those numbers, 20 are just.
Right.
or just release.
Or the lottery release. They don't have to really give a reason. They just, I want to go to Sherwood, and if they're part of the lottery, then you sign it and you don't question them.
They just passed a levy, so I want to go, see, I want to go over there and.
Yeah, I was well, and that's at least my comment. There's as 20 some years of coaching and leading clubs and being in the community with my kids. It doesn't matter if we have 0 or we have 20 as release. people are determined to get out of here, they'll get out of here. And if it means moving or it means finagling the system and lying about it being a hardship, they'll do it. And so I don't know if it matters. We need to, and the one thing I heard about in the Ewing Young Roadshow about the bond, or not the bond, the redistricting,
Yeah.
the boundary committee discussion is right. We need to really reevaluate how we promote our own schools within our district. And that really is not about like advertising and other stuff like that. This is about really questioning why, if you hear a family at a soccer league question why they want to leave Newberg, you really got to ask them why and like try to have a discussion. And because that's where it's going to stop and that's where it's going to change, is that micro level of understanding and engagements. And I'm not saying us as board members, I'm talking about the whole community. If you're a proponent for our school district, everybody in our school district should be questioning other families of why they're leaving. And that feedback needs to come back. So I really don't, I get what you're saying, Andy. I don't care. If we're gonna do it, let's go to zero. Let's be the hard asses that other school districts are doing. Let's just do that. But to me, it doesn't matter. They're still gonna get around it if they're determined to get around it. So
I'm gonna push on that a little bit, right? If someone, help me understand the lottery here. If someone wants to enter that transfer lottery, is there a conversation with anyone? Or do they just put their name in?
They fill out the form and they hand it in.
Yeah, that's right. So this guarantees that that family is having a conversation with someone at the district that can help maybe talk them through some of the concerns that they have, maybe allay some of their fears about what they've heard. My experience with what you're talking about, Jeremy, is being at the sports event and hearing a family who's not in Newberg talking about what an amazing experience their child is having at another district. That just makes more people hungry for that. And we need to be listening for those things because we need to be getting better. But sending our students out is not helping. It's not helping our budget situation, our revenue situation, and it's not helping the trust that our families have in our schools. We have great schools and we need our students here, right? That's my feeling about it. I will not vote for this as it's presented. So I'm interested in some conversation around changing these numbers. I just can't support this.
So go ahead.
Just throwing it out, I'll try not to be too long-winded, but going to with that is we're considering, I think I'm looking around at, a lot of let's just use Washington County schools for now. A lot of them have a levy. And what I would hate to see, and I know it's not 20, but it's 20 every year, right? I would hate to see 20 families go, I want to live in Newberg. I don't want to pay for levy. I don't want to invest in our schools, but I'm going to transfer my kids to a place where that community voted on a levy. And that doesn't sit right with me because when we looked at those numbers, let's be frank, a lot of them are going to Sherwood. Sherwood voted for a high levy. And I don't like that, hey, well, if Ewing Young's going to close I'm going to send my kids over there. But rather than say, I'm going to vote for this levy, that community voted on that levy and they're the ones paying for that. And you can live here and not do that. And I don't think that's where it is hard. And I say that as someone who works in another district and could have, under those circumstances, moved my kids to another district, but I chose to live here and put my kids in here and invest in this community regardless of that. And I think, I don't know, I think I'm kind of with that. I still feel very strongly on the hardships that if there is a real reason to go, let's go. And yeah, we shouldn't hold them back. But I do think, yes, people will find a way. I 100% agree. But I do think if we, like, for argument's sake, zeroed it out, I think that there would be fewer. I think we would net fewer because some people would go, I don't really want to go through the hoops to put my friend's address on there. I don't want to say I have this hardship or fight it. And I don't really, people don't even want to pick up the phone. They're not going to want to go meet me there. So, I think that would cut it down. And I think you're right. Those who are determined they're going to go and we shouldn't keep them. But I think just making it super easy. So I think with just to close up my idea on there, I love keeping the hardship stuff in there, but with Andy on that, I think we should zero those out for now and try it for a while. And if it doesn't work, if this is causing a big problem, a year from now we can revisit it.
That's right.
6 months from now we could if it's.
That's right.
kind of a devil's advocate on that, just curiosity and wondering, not actually really my opinion, but is there a risk? Do any of you feel like there's a risk in zeroing this out right now in this levy conversation? As this, like, we're kind of doing all these, we're kind of having this threatening kind of language, like we're gonna pass this levy or close you in young, we're gonna zero this out, we're gonna force you to stay here. I mean, is this the time? Do we have it, and then do we do zeros next year? Do we? And I'm really just kind of throwing all that out there.
Yeah.
Cause I worry a lot about messaging.
Yeah.
In this.
I think we're not actually saying that you can't transfer. We're saying that you have to come meet with me, and there's some reasons why that has to happen. And truly, I'm glad we're having this discussion, because I don't have a huge opinion on this. Like, the recommendation there, I'm just as fine saying zero, and then if it's a hardship, you come and meet. There are other districts who are doing it. I'm good with this. I want us to agree on where we want to trend. And so I'm open.
And I'm very fine going to the zeros. I think I'm with James, and the hardships are important to me. I think the sibling priority is important to me, especially those families that did leave in 22, 23, 20, whenever people left. Those are important to me. It's the messaging piece that I want to be very clear on. I want us to be aligned, but I want us to be able to get this message out to the community in a way that is fair to them, and knowing that we already have families that are anticipating this lottery in a couple of weeks and what that is going to look like for them.
I think I agree on the messaging, but I think it's less, at least maybe the way I'm trying to phrase it, is I don't want it to be threatening. I just think it's more messaging of, we're just asking the community to invest in the community. And I think that's the message. And again, one of the things I remember from 2 weeks ago, David, you were saying was that some of these districts don't approve the siblings, and that didn't sit right with you, which is what gives me more confidence to trust you to make those right decisions. And if it ends up being the same amounts because they had good reasons, then I'm all for it. But I agree. I think it is a messaging, but I don't want it to be the messaging of threatening, but I think it's hey, we are in this crisis.
And I think by messaging, I also mean the perception of the community, and what can we do to help guide the narrative of why this decision is happening at this point in the year. You know, that this doesn't really have anything to do with the levy. It's the time of year that we would naturally be doing this anyway. And that's the kind of background information that the community doesn't often have. And so just being really clear in, this is something we look at annually, and this is the decision made this year, which is in line with other districts. And if you do really want to go, we want to have a conversation with you. It's like, we can angle this so that by zeroing it out, we are increasing our human contact with all these families.
And aligning with other districts. And I think that's a huge one for me, because they're all gonna accept them, but they're not gonna send them back.
I think it's also that we ensure we get the feedback that we want.
Yeah. And having
Because there's a feedback loop.
And this is only for inter-district. If they want to go homeschool or some one of those, that they can just do that with anything.
Virtual that's a different thing.
My only devil's advocate as well would be, when I hear there's families that are gonna do this regardless, they'll find a way to do it. That's not equitable for every family. I don't know that all of those families that might not have those means would want to leave in the first place. But it always worries me when do you have the means, the knowledge, the people who can get you there to get you out, rather than, hey, this is something where if families feel a certain way, they have a chance to do this without, like, if we're saying people don't even know that the sibling thing is a thing, they definitely don't know that if I work really hard and pester enough, I can get my way. And there are families that know that. And so I worry about the equitability. I don't know that those are the same people that would be leaving in the first place or not. But I can't not, bring that up.
I appreciate that. That's compelling. I appreciate that.
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna, if it's building on that, I was gonna return to the messaging conversation.
I was just actually that's specifically about equitability about it. is, okay, if we allowed 20 last year, how many applications were sent in? We approved 20. What was the left that didn't move forward, at least for the initial lottery? And then how many of those came back to say, now I have a hardship? Or do we even have that? Or did they reapply? Did you have that discussion?
So, I don't have the exact numbers, but when you weren't chosen in the lottery, you had a letter that said you have to have a hardship.
Okay.
And so at that point, they would start filling out that paperwork.
Gotcha. But we don't know how many true applications you had in the first round and you were like, you weren't selected, you would.
It was probably double, but I don't have that
Okay.
number. I mean, it was it's still a big set.
So I'm just trying to say that equitability is like, I mean, you still have less than a 50% chance of even getting this.
And again, like, I don't know that it's those families that are trying, because I assume those families live in this community and want, you know,
Yeah,
be a part of this.
Yeah.
Because I agree fully with that point, that Mrs. Newberg, I hope that if you live here, you want your kids to be here, you're gonna be living around the kids that are going here, and so let's uplift everyone rather than thinking that being in Sherwood is somehow gonna have this wildly better outcome for your life. So I'm all for the 0. I think that we have to talk about the potential negatives as well that might come.
One thing I going to think on this too is like, maybe those who are living on the boundary edge, do you have conversations with them, Dave? Like if they come to you and it's like, hey, literally like, I don't know, I'm just,
Yeah.
we're gonna go down this road, I'm just throw up some hypotheticals, like, hey, my kid's best friend lives across the street and they're in Sherwood and I'm in Newberg or one of the other process.
I haven't had many of those come to me. There have been some.
Yeah.
And again, it would kind of depend on that whole situation.
Yeah. But I assume like if they had something that truly was something on their family, like, hey, we can carpool, or I feel like again, we would have those conversations and that could go back to the equity of, if they're willing to have the conversation, then I feel like that, then they can talk about that. And then it's not about being sneaky. It's just have a conversation with Dave, and it truly is a family thing. But I think this will cut down on some of the you got the fun prop, I'm gonna use a silly word, the willy-nilliness of it. You know, so.
I have a question about just the like man hours of this, woman hours of this. Is there a measurable trade-off for us of running a lottery versus having everybody meet with you? I mean, and the lottery, I have to assume, is a process that is managed by the district office. Like, is this something that is?
I would tell you the transfers eats a lot of time.
Yeah.
It's a very time intensive, and this is not gonna, it's not gonna improve that time. I also don't know a way out of that, because of no matter what, we're still, there are people who have needs, we're gonna have to listen, address those needs. So I don't think it really changes I don't think it really changes what we do too much. I don't think we should make a decision on that.
Yeah, that's great.
So I'm hearing, I want to move us forward a little bit. What I'm hearing is that we'd like to change the numbers. I think the number is 0. And then we leave the rest of this as presented.
So 0 outs or 0 received, we can still use those numbers, keep those numbers as is.
Yeah, I'd still do the receive piece, mostly because we have kids coming back specifically at the high school.
Right.
So that I would leave the receive numbers.
What about the priority statement that some other districts are using? The one that district had like hardships and priority.
I think the way we wrote that is hardship entrance request may be accepted after hardship request must be submitted in writing. So it is authorized to review hardship requests on a case-by-case basis, may approve releases outside the adopted limits when qualifying, and sibling enrollment may be considered as discretionary factor, but does not guarantee approval. And then written notice of approval, blah, blah, blah. So I think that
covers it.
I think Jackie was gonna say something.
I also want to be careful about saying that you're going to meet and decide based on that meeting. If we're going to hardships, we're going with the hardships that Oregon is listing. Because we have to keep it fair too, so. I just wanna.
I think I still have to meet with folks, because when it
Yeah.
comes down to the hardship specifically around childcare and then the bullying piece, usually there's a story. So that's not usually something that somebody writes on a piece of paper, and that I just, at that point, I'm gonna sit down and meet with them. And there may be some pieces that come up from there that I have to kind of judge with, but
So if were you gonna say something?
Well, I was just gonna come back to Andy. He kind of got cut off earlier.
All right, yep.
So did you?
I think for me, the message here is stewardship. That's my 100% of my concerns are around stewardship. You know, we've been talking for months about the work of the boundary committee, and we've been highlighting like the potential risks of not either cutting expenses or raising revenue. And for every student that we are allowing to sort of enter this lottery process, we're basically letting that, again, it kills me to reduce students to dollars, right? But we're in that right now. We're letting that money walk out of the door. And to me, that this feels like stewardship, right? To say, we're gonna, for a period of time, we're gonna set this to zero. And I'll say too, like, I'm all in favor of the hardship provisions here. I think some of those are also in law. But I don't know what the other risks are, right? I'm looking around the room here, like, what are the other risks involved in setting this to zero? Like, I don't want to be a jerk about it. But I think that's our job, is to help us maintain a lens of stewardship around what we do. And this feels like one small thing that we could add to the bullet list on that slide of things that we're doing in response to our current situation. That's where I'm coming from on this.
I think especially, and I'll say I agree, I think especially when other districts, particularly the districts that people are going to, are already doing this. And I feel like that's, if we were the only ones, then I would say, okay, something's weird here. But when it's just it's kind of getting to a best practice. And I think that is more what I want to go to, while still keeping the human element that some other districts aren't. And I think.
Do we have contact information for families that have already reached out this year about this process? I think if there was some way that we could inform that, like, obviously we will be informing the community, but if there is some way that we can make contact with those families that are, you know, planning on this in a month, in 2 weeks, right? I just want to make sure that, I agree, and I'm on board with zeroing out. I worry just about those families, the equity of it. I think a level of care for those families may take us a little bit further to let them know, like, we're not completely pulling the rug out from you. We're just asking that you follow this procedure, and, you know, that's my one. That's a hope.
So if we were to do this, what would we
Yeah, it's
make a
amended.
motion of? Like, it would be to amend it somehow, but I don't know.
So the releases would go down to zero for all of them.
I would just
Or
include
that
that.
recommended transfer limits would be zero, keeping the hardship as presented.
No.
What?
Recommended transfer, the recommended releases would go down to zero, but
Yes, okay,
the rest of the transfer numbers would stay the same.
got it.
So just as amended, I assume.
Yeah.
So,
But then we're all in agreement that
well, we want to make a.
we have to all be in agreement that that's the amendment we're making.
Well,
Wes, do you have any thoughts or?
Nope, I'm good with it.
I don't mind making the motion. I just wanted to make sure we've had all the discussion, so.
Well, there'll be an opportunity after the motion, so to offer more thoughts.
Well, then. I'll make a motion. The amendment will be to zero out the release numbers, and I move that the board approve the 2026-27 interdistrict transfer limits as amended, with release numbers to zero, including hardship provisions consistent with your policy JCB and OER 581-021-0019.
Is there a second?
Second.
So time for additional discussion or questions?
Yeah, so the amendment is not only the zeroing out, it would also be the deletion of the application timeline and processing section, correct?
Well, would you need to leave that in though, because we're also keeping receiving open? So we wouldn't want to delete that because they still have to follow that process.
So that's
If they
the
want.
receiving timeline then. The hardship applications are rolling. Throughout the year.
Dave?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They can do a hardship anytime.
Question on. I guess receiving a hardship from another district. That wouldn't need to be in that time frame. Does that affect our numbers? Do we?
No, and it starts in the other district. And so we get an application from that other district that someone wants to come this way. We would again be like, if they were moving into classes that were over full or whatever, we wouldn't accept that transfer at that point or offer another space that is open.
So then I guess would there be a reason to keep this timeline if it's only for receiving throughout the year whenever other districts do? So then I think you're right, Aubrey, we would just delete that.
Yeah.
So that's, we have to remake the motion then to delete that section? Or just, we're discussing that.
It'd be safer to
Okay,
just,
so that's the amendment and then I'll make it again. So I move that the board.
Wait, hold on. What are you
Yeah.
saying?
I think we should remake that motion. So
With deletion of
Yes.
application timeline?
yeah, do the whole thing
Got
so
it.
that we have it straight. Is
Okay.
that,
So we have to close out the current.
yes,
Yes.
Sure. Table.
table it.
I'd like to table that motion.
Second.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Yes, all those in favor of tabling it? Aye.
You know which one in hand.
Okay. So that previous motion was tabled, so we're good. So now we're back to starting.
I move.
Hold on. I got
Yeah.
one more question. Dave, I don't know the language of, you'd think being on the policy committee, I might have it memorized. I don't know the language of JECB to know whether that specifically says you or superintendent or designee. So to the point that was made earlier about like a potential increase of time, are there other folks that could meet with some of the families that may be coming forward? So that it's not all on you. Do you know what I mean?
I could delegate right now, but I am looking at it just to make sure that we're,
Well. And that may not be in this motion, that may just be in the policy, but while we were.
it actually
tabling-
refers to the district,
Okay,
through this. The district may grant admission, so I think that allows me to handle that however I want.
Okay, I think I have it. All right, I move that the board approve the 2026-27 inter-district transfer limits as amended, which is to reduce the recommended transfer limits, release to 0, and delete the section on application timeline and processing, comma, including hardship provisions consistent with board policy JECB NOAR 581-021-0019. I think that's it.
Wait, why did you say comma hard?
Just to keep that part separate.
Those were the amendments.
But those are only the amendments.
Okay.
It was just to say that I was not wanting to go with the notes.
Okay, so Celeste, you second this one
Yes, sir.
already? Okay, any other questions or discussion around this? Okay, all in favor of the second amended motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Yeah, that's 6-0. It has passed unanimously.
I want to say thank you for this conversation on that. I think that was the most public group thinking that this board has done. I appreciate hearing that.
Okay, so it doesn't, any future agenda items we may be aware about?
No,
Okay.
This one went long. Thank you for everybody's patience.
Thank you. And then the next board meeting is March 10th at the office.
Yes.
Okay, and at this point, we adjourn the meeting at 9:23. Thank you.
Or not to tell you what to do, but do you see these chairs?